Hello, good morning, and for the final time this year, a very warm welcome to Trent Bridge Live. Yes, today is the final day of the 2022 season. Yes, it is day 4 here at Trent Bridge in this LV Insurance County Championship fixture against Durham. Now, yesterday was, well, a moment in history for Nottinghamshire. They managed to get the bonus points needed. That means that they got promoted yesterday back to Division 1. That does mean that today the one challenge is to win that Division 2 title. Here we go, he promised to do that, so ready all together? Whee! There you go. It is the final day, as I say. But yes, today's all about claiming that Division 2 title. Notts, well, they need to draw basically. A win, well, that'll be the cherry on the icing, won't it, of the cake. But let's remind you of how Notts managed to get that promotion, and we'll do that with the highlights from day 3.
Notts finished day 3 7 wickets from glory. It's fair to say Nottinghamshire are steaming towards promotion and the Division 2 title. Centuries from Hamid, Montgomery, Mullaney and James earned them 662 runs for the loss of just 5 wickets. Durham already 2 down in their reply, still 609 behind. And Notts would add another wicket, Borthwick the third to go, caught by Hamid in the gully off Luke Fletcher. Driscoll was soon making the walk back to the dressing room too, caught by Mullaney off Patterson for 16. Madison and Bushnell tried to counter-attack, and they did so pretty effectively. For the first time, Durham started to taste the batting success Notts had savoured. After 68 balls, Madison lifted Patterson White over the leg side boundary to bring up the 50 partnership, but Broad had had enough, and Madison fell for 40 off 42, caught by Clark. Benjamin wouldn't trouble the scorers. Montgomery held on to the catch at short leg off Patterson White after a little bit of juggling. Rain and Bushnell clung on through to the break. Durham in a heap of trouble. Notts just 3 wickets away from promotion. Rain departed shortly after lunch, LBW to Patterson for 9. Bushnell would push tentatively at Patterson White's delivery to depart, caught by Mullaney for 37. Notts almost there now. Potts fired back at Notts, plundering Patterson White for 15 off and over, including a huge 6 sent flying back over the bowler's head. Patterson took some punishment in his next over too, but had a response. Potts out caught deep on the leg side looking for 6 more. The wicket, the all-important one for Notts. With it, they had sealed promotion back to Division 1, a moment relished by the captain and celebrated by players and fans alike. It was also the final wicket to fall, David Bedingham unable to take part after sustaining an injury earlier in the match. Potts' 40 matched Madison's return, both men providing moments of defiance for Durham. Patterson the leader of the Notts attack with 3 for 50. Stephen Mullaney declined to enforce the follow-on, sending Slater and Hamid back out there. The bowlers had earned a break. Ben Slater would fall cheaply though, squared up by Potts and edging to Driscoll at first slip. Matt Montgomery would have loved to have finished with his career best 178, but his final contribution this season would go down as 9, nicking Rain to Dixon at second slip. The runs kept flowing though, and Hamid brought the 50 up with 4 off Gibson. He and Clark accelerated towards tea, up to 88 at the break. There was more Notts joy after tea. Hamid and Clark took the score beyond 100, and both men moved to the verge of 50, the latter with a ballistic shot for 6. Bad light stopped them on 121 for 2 and made Mullaney's mind up. Notts declared during the delay the target an unlikely 577. It took Stuart Broad just 2 balls to make the first breakthrough. Dixon caught by Lyndon James for a duck, and Driscoll would follow too. LBW to Fletcher with just 13 on the board. Notts heading for victory at the close of play with 7 more wickets needed. They may well have wrapped it up within 3 days had they not bizarrely decided to bat on for 30 overs. But with tickets to Trent Bridge free on the final day, their fans won't be complaining. It could be a carnival atmosphere at the famous old ground. The hosts look set to seal the title on the final day of the season.
So that was the action from yesterday on day 3. So all the batting has been done now from a Notts point of view. So let's just show you how the batters have fared for this season. And you will see there that 49 not out from Hasib Hamid yesterday meant that he has finished on top of the pile there. 1,235 runs for Hass. It's been a really good season for him, and also Ben Duckett. Don't forget he's been away on England duty for the last few weeks. He got the 1,000 runs earlier on in the season and he's second there. As we mentioned already, Steve Mullaney, the captain, finishing just shy of 1,000 runs, 7 runs unfortunately for him. But at the end of the day, Mull being the person that he is, it's all about the team there as well. So really, as I say, this is the last game of the season, but let's just show you how the season has unfolded from a Notts point of view. And you will see that obviously way back earlier on in the year, that loss against Glamorgan really was a turning point for the team. They realised that they didn't play very well in that game. And obviously from there, apart from the loss against Worcester last week, there's been wins and a few draws in there as well. So yes, Notts are on top and they'll be looking to finish on a high today and collect that Division 2 trophy. But from a Durham point of view, well, they've still got 7 wickets in hand and they're not going to give up without a fight. So Notts, they need those 7 wickets. You'll be able to find and watch all the action here on Trent Bridge Live. But if you can come down to Trent Bridge, then it is free entry. Claim your ticket online or come to the ticket office. But if you can't make it down here, do not worry. You won't miss a ball here on Trent Bridge Live. The Notts bowlers are out there in the middle. You'll just be able to see that bowling coach or assistant coach Kevin Shine is out there with Stuart Broad. He's just running in now, warming up, and the big man himself, Luke Fletcher, is there as well. They're all up for it today. We hope you are. And for the final time this season, I'm going to hand you over to your commentary team because we are a couple of minutes away from the start of play at 10:30. Today, that is Martin Emerson, and for the final time this season, I'm going to say a very good morning to Dave Bracegirdle.
Well, very good morning, everybody. Welcome to Trent Bridge for the last act, the denouement, if that's the word, probably not, of the 2022 season. Many thanks, as always, to Aaron for setting the day up. I'm sure we'll say it later on. I'll try and say it later on, but many thanks to Aaron Lord, who's been down every day of the season there before the start of play and at the close, setting the days up for us and presenting the highlights, and then at the end of the day grabbing all the interviews. Thanks to Aaron and the camera crews and the production crews led by Kirsty that's brought you the live stream throughout the season. So it is the last day. A very good morning to you if you're following us on the BBC Sport website and app. Absolutely delighted that you've been able to join us here at Trent Bridge. The weather has held off. We have had a bit of overnight rain. It was drizzly late last night as I made my way home very, very late on. We'll talk about that later. And it was a little damp this morning, but thankfully it's okay. We're going to get underway. How much cricket? We don't know. Durham may well have it within their resources to bat all day and keep the crowd and keep us all here until tea time. Unlikely, I'll say that they're going to chase down a victory target of 577, 14 for 2 when they went off for bad light last night. But I think we're very much looking forward to several hours of decent cricket just to give us a nice fond farewell to the season. I'm Dave Bracegirdle, and as ever, you've already perhaps heard him trying to get on air before I tweaked him off. BBC Newcastle's Martin Emerson.
Hello.
Hello. How long is it going to last?
Oh, could be going round and around and around, couldn't we?
You know, if you're Scott Borthwick, if you're Liam Travaskis, if you're one or two of the other players, Jonathan Bushnell, Chris Benjamin, you're going to want to sign off, aren't you, with some runs?
Yeah. Interviewed Jonathan Bushnell last night for the first time, and he was saying that he's been thrilled with his opportunity this year because at the end of last season he hadn't had a particularly good season, wasn't sure what his future was and whether or not he'd even still be at the club. So he's come in and grabbed his chance this year.
It's a local lad.
Yeah, from Durham City.
Looked very technically skilled in the first innings. Made 37. Might have to wait a while because Liam Travaskis and Scott Borthwick will resume their innings. Travaskis 6 not out, Borthwick yet to score. The two that have fallen, their season's already over. Sean Dixon and George Drissel, who came in as a night watchman, getting a wave from Luke Fletcher, and there's a crowd in that Getting behind him. They, many of them will be members here, of course, but many also will have taken the opportunity to take the complimentary tickets, the free tickets that have been put on offer today for this match for the final day by Nottinghamshire County Cricket Club.
Here comes Fletcher then, right arm round. This is defended by Travaskis, who has been elevated to opening batsman in this match. If the game follows the pattern that it has so far, then you'd imagine this will be over not long after lunch. But if Durham can find some resolve and dig in, then we could be going win in the late afternoon. We shall see. Well, I haven't turned my phone off.
Could be an important one, important business call. Somebody offering you 6 months' work over the winter in the United Arab Emirates. Can you go and host the World Cup football coverage for us?
In comes Fletcher again. That's gone through to the keeper. I doubt it.
Or maybe it's somebody just checking to see if he got PPI.
It was the beloved. I tried ringing her a few minutes ago. But
does she not know what time we start?
Well, she's probably thinking that we've had a delayed start because of all the rain.
Is it wetting that there north?
It was hosing it down yesterday, apparently, and that weather has passed through here overnight and this morning.
Too far north.
Yeah.
It's glorious here at the moment. There is dark cloud, but the sun is very welcome.
Forward comes Travaskis to defend this one.
So we have 96 overs today. You don't make up any overs that were previously lost in the game. You keep a tally of these things. We sort of several times tried to get back on course, but I think we lost a few overs over the course of the 3 days.
I think 20 have gone in this game to bad light.
I think this time last week, looking at the weather for this particular week, this particular game, would have settled for that, wouldn't we? It did appear as if it was going to be quite a wet week.
Yep. In comes Fletcher again. This has gone off to backward point.
Andy says the comms are a good 10 seconds ahead of the images on the stream at the moment, Dave. Now, what we need to do there is ask you to that will sort it out. If it's at this end, then Kirsty will tweak it because she's all over things like that. But if we are out of sync, keep giving it a bit of a refresh till it sorts itself out.
Fletcher in, and again bat and pad. Travaskis plays this up to mid-off. Nigel Ashton is emailed. End of season thank you. Being the last day today, then may I take a brief moment to say thank you to everybody for the coverage again this season. As ever, I do not have addresses for everyone, so perhaps someone will pass on my thanks to those not on my list. Looking forward to being with you again next season, says Nigel from the Wirral. In comes Fletcher round the wicket. Oh, that's a good ball. I think that's gone inside edge and through to the keeper.
Well, it can't be an inside edge.
Well, it's gone inside, gone past the inside edge.
Yeah, I think you're right. It cut back. Would you be so good as to remind everybody of your wonderful email address? Because I'm so lazy, I haven't got an email. But people do like sometimes just to say a little bit longer words than the old Twitter. Weir Cricket?
Yes, Weir Cricket at yahoo.co.uk, as in the River Weir.
Wear Cricket. Weir Cricket at yahoo.co.uk. There we are. If anybody wants to get in touch,
set back in the mists of time. That one was. It was before, because at one time we couldn't access a BBC email account from outside the BBC, could you? So.
Oh, I've never been privileged to have one of those.
No, well, I'm not surprised.
I've only just managed to work out the old Twitter thing properly. At Brace Cricket, at Marty Cricket, if you want to send something a little shorter, a little more whimsical. Twitter's probably the place. As Stuart Broad with the headband on is to bowl the second over of the morning. Durham 14 for 2 is from the pavilion end with a backdrop of the committee rooms. There bowls to Scott Borthwick and he defends. Broad could potentially turn this into a bit of an individual milestone day for him. He's on 897 first class wickets, so even I can do the math there. 3 required.
Is it not maths?
Well, it is, but I was going to then say that's a bit of an Americanism.
It is.
You were saying this morning over breakfast, you had a little bit of a look, not that we had breakfast together, a little bit of a look at the appalling weather they've had there with Hurricane Ian as Broad bowls, and a push and run from Scotty Borthwick, and Durham are up and running 15 for 2. Hurricane Ian.
I know. It doesn't sound like it's going to pack a punch in Ian, does it? But I was saying we were in Florida, I think 2019 we were there, and we had a week in Disney, and then we went down to Naples, which is the southwest corner, just above the Everglades, and they were still repairing damage from the hurricane that had ripped through there that previous winter, but they were saying that it had been the first one that had hit them for quite a number of years, and then here's another one hit them this week, yesterday and today.
Travaskis now on strike to face his first ball from Broad today, works it to mid-wicket. Well, yeah, he hit it to mid-wicket. Fletcher was at mid-on and moved sharply to his left to prevent a run. I'm more familiar with the other Naples, and looking forward to seeing that over the next few days. 15 for 2 in the 10th over, with Durham. Well, the board says they're 500 and whatever it is away, but it's all going to be for them about a little bit of pride and some individual performances today, I'm sure.
Well, this Naples, there's lots of it's underwater again now, and the damage looks terrible. There's also something I'd never really heard of when it comes to hurricanes.
There is Stuart Broad, and Travaskis pushes it back to the England man. What's that?
I've driven past Tampa Bay, Tampa, but I've not been in it, so I don't know if it directly faces, if it faces west or north or south or whatever. But the sea surge that has flooded lots of other places has seen the water in Tampa Bay get sucked away because it's risen elsewhere.
It's on Florida's west coast, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a 10-hour drive, apparently, from Miami, because you've got to go all the way round, as you say, around the Everglades, and it's not far as the crow flies, but it's a bit of a detour to get there. I have had a look, as this is steered to backward point, because I was contemplating a bit of a...
I can't imagine it's 10 hours.
Well, have a look. How long?
I've drove from Naples to Orlando, which was 4 hours.
I've had a little bit of a... Yeah, I know, but you've got to go sort of up there to come back down. I've had a bit of a look to see if you can sort of take in a week or 10 days doing the old NFL match, one in Miami and one in Tampa. But it's quicker to fly, isn't it? You just jump on a... they're like the buses, aren't they?
Plane would only have just taken off, but yeah.
Well, you wouldn't want to do it this week. No. But 15 for 2, Broad in, nice looking shot, won't bring a run, decent stop. Oh, in fact it will. It's gone underneath Dane Patterson. I was going to say a brilliant bit of fielding, but it did just escape him, and they come back for 2. So it's very hard. Harsh critics would say Dane Patterson should have stopped it. The kinder souls amongst you would say he saved a couple of runs there, because it was hit very hard, and I think he's hurt his hand a little bit, which isn't great news for him. Last day of the season, and he's in a little bit of discomfort there, Dane, who's had a fabulous season for Notts, past 50 wickets in the Championship, 72 wickets in all for Notts, and he just says he's okay. 17 for 2.
When we stayed in Naples, we were near the airport, and every now and then I'd have a look and see where planes were coming in from, and they were just like little local bus routes from, coming down from Tampa, Miami, Orlando, and I was thinking, is it really worth getting on a plane to go such short distances?
Squeezy Crip says, good morning, gentlemen. It feels like this is a bit of a bonus day in your company. Thank you. Thanks to you, Squeezy Crip.
Fletcher around the wicket to Borthwick, who leaves that one alone. Borthwick on 1 from 10. Got a funny sky because it looks naughty. It looks a really naughty sky. Lots of big banks of dark, brooding cloud with bright sunshine coming through the gaps. Just been out on the terrace to the left of where we're sitting, and it feels quite humid up there. It's a bit of a sun trap, but I don't think any rain is forecast now. Fletcher in, and that's left by Borthwick.
I was a day ahead of myself yesterday, pointing out that today is Chris Broad's birthday, Stuart's dad, Brian Christopher Broad, as he appears on the bottom of all scorecards still whenever he's a match referee. Joined Notts in 1984 after 118 appearances for Gloucestershire. He ended up playing 34 tests, scored 12,500 runs for Notts in the longer format, 6,500 in one-day competition. Just a terrific player. Happy birthday, Chris Broad. 65 today.
Fletcher bowls, this squirts away off the corner of the bat from Borthwick down towards third man, and that's vacant, and that is in front of the pavilion. They run 3, so Bus gets his bus past today, doesn't he?
Yep, I've got 1 or 2 other birthdays, Marty, if you just want to play along for a moment or two. Mark Nicholas, it's his birthday today. How old do you think he is? Cricketer, former Hampshire, of course, now TV presenter of cricket and commentator.
Well, I would go for 61.
He actually shares his birthday with Chris Broad. He's 65 today, Mark Nicholas.
20 for 2 the score. Fletcher round the wicket, bowls, and an attempted cut from Travaskis, who plays and misses, and the ball wrong foots the keeper.
Here's a couple that surprised me. Ricky Clark recently retired.
41.
He is 41 today, absolutely spot on. I was a little surprised. He's only a year out of the game, isn't he? But and this one surprised me as well. Michael Carberry, former Hampshire, and
43.
He's 42.
42.
He's another one. I would have just had him probably 36, 37. But the years drift on.
Fletcher, who's 47 and a half. Bowls this one.
2 more. One, I know he's before your time. I used to watch him. Had a lovely action. Lance Gibbs, West Indian spinner.
Played for Whitburn Cricket Club.
Did he, by Jove? Played for Warwickshire for many years. But what a joy to watch. I have as well. Lance Gibbs.
Oh, he's going to be 80.
A bit more. I'd be 80 on. 88 is
88,
Lance Gibbs, former West Indian.
Same age as Garfield Sobers, then, is he?
Guy's just a little bit younger.
This is defended by Travaskis, goes out to the offside.
The last one, Martin, because I know you're getting bored with these sorts of things. The last one, David Steele, he won Sports Personality of the Year back in, was it 75, when they brought him in the England team to face the West Indies, former Northants batter, silver-haired David Steele, brother of John Steele, the former umpire.
He's the former leader in the Lib Dems as well.
That's him, yeah. David Steele.
What year did he play?
Well, he was 75. He was Sports Personality of the Year. He got a very late test call up, didn't he?
He is 76.
He's 81.
81.
Yeah. So happy birthday to all of those. Chris Broad, Lance Gibbs, David Steele, Mark Nicholas, Michael Carberry, Ricky Clark celebrating their birthday today. There might be 1 or 2 more, and 1 or 2 of you out there might also be sharing your birthday. Very happy birthday from Martin Emerson. 20 for 2 Durham. As this is edged down to Mulaney at 4th slip. Did it carry? Didn't it carry? Nobody's particularly animated. I think it was probably just a decent stop.
Yeah, I don't think that carried. Tom Quinn Gregson is the email. That's a good name, isn't it? He says, since moving to Germany, I have loved being able to watch all the games online.
Can we just go back a second? Yeah. So is it Tom-Quinn or Tom Quinn-Gregson? Or
Quinn-Gregson.
Quinn-Gregson. Yeah. Good morning, Tom. Thank you for getting in touch. Sorry for interrupting, Martin.
20 for 2 Durham. Broad bowls has a big appeal. He's celebrating, and that's the end of Scott Borthwick's season. He's out for 4 LBW.
Umpire had a long old look at that, didn't he? And it sort of half made me think he's not going to give that because of the appeal going. Oh, that looked very out. That really did look out. No wonder Broad was celebrating on his dad's birthday. He's got his 898th first-class wicket, and Durham are 3 down, 20 for 3. Scott Borthwick, LBW, Stuart Broad for 4. Batted for 20 minutes, faced 15 balls. Not had a great visit this week to Trent Bridge. Scott, he lost the toss at 10 o'clock on the first morning, made 27, unable to bowl with a finger injury as well. And now he's out for 4.
And sadly, he's gone through the entire season without a century this year. He got into the 90s a few times and the 80s. Here's Nick Maddinson coming out to bat. I said if wickets continued to fall at the rate they had been in the previous Durham innings, this would be over just after lunch. And what are we, 4th over of the day, and the first one's gone down?
Yep. So here's Maddinson. He came out. It's in the first innings, yesterday or the day before, heaven knows. I think it was yesterday, wasn't it? It was. Seems like much earlier in the week. He was facing Liam Patterson-White and decided to have a bit of a go, didn't he? Boshed Liam for 3 big sixes, one landing on the roof of the Fox Road stand. made his way to 40, Nick Maddinson, before he fell to Stuart Broad, caught at slip by Joe Clark. It's the equal joint top scorer in the first innings. Australian wearing squad number 53. I'm sure he'll be very quickly on a flight over the next day or two to make his way back home for the start of the Australian domestic season. Broad figures of 2 for 13. In he comes, bowls to Maddinson, gets bat on this one, and there's no run. In the 12th over, Dixon 0, Drissell 6 yesterday. Scott Borthwick this morning for 4. Once more, England international Stuart Broad bowls, runs for Maddinson, 4 of them. Just squeezed it away between those 4 slips and gully, Liam Patterson White. Backward point, deepish gully, whatever you want to say. Got 4 runs. He's gone over to fetch the ball back from the base of the Fox Road stand, where there's the
nets
flag saying Worksop.
Worksop.
T and Mitch with their flag. It's one of those, the Cross of St George, the red, obviously, stripe on the white background. It says Worksop in white letters. Top left, T and Mitch. Top right, the Notts cricket logo. Bottom left, Outlaws. And bottom right, I can't quite see because it's a bit scrunched up.
They're examining the ball here after it went off the field. There's a bit of debris on it, I think.
It clattered into the brickwork there, doesn't it? It never does a ball any good, clattering it into bricks. Official Liam says...
I think it might be Mansfield Town, maybe?
Says Trent Bridge is looking good this morning for the final day.
Worksop now. The only time I've ever been to Worksop...
I was born in Worksop. Yeah.
We used to go there to pick John Hampshire up, or to pop in to see John Hampshire, former umpire and Yorkshire player. Have they decided this ball is now no good? They're bringing a spare on.
There was a game, it must be, well, I don't know, the years roll by, maybe 6 or 7 years ago that you and I did at Durham, and something happened on the first morning to one of the designated umpires. Either he couldn't get there or he'd got there and was poorly.
It was against Surrey. No,
it was against Notts. I was there.
Right, yeah.
I was there.
Sorry, yeah.
And John Hampshire was on the ground, and I think he'd just retired, hadn't he, the year or 2 before, but he was actually on the ground at Chesterley Street, and he came out and stood on the first session of the match where they found another umpire.
Right.
Do you remember that? Obviously not.
No.
Paul Taylor, delighted to see Notts going back to where they belong in Division 1. Thanks to Dave and all the other colleagues for fantastic coverage this season. Winterwell, you too. Mr. Taylor, thank you very much.
I remember I hadn't realised John was ill, and the last time I saw him, he'd lost a lot of weight, and he was still a referee or an umpire's assessor, and he was at Chesterley Street, and then he passed away sadly not long after that. But
he's got a century on his Test debut, didn't he, John?
Yeah, with, do you know with what?
With what?
With a broken arm.
Give over.
Yeah. He told us that story in the car one day when we were heading somewhere. He'd broken his arm the week before playing for Yorkshire, and then he got a call up to play for England, and he got hit in the arm again, and he didn't want to go off because he was worried he might not get a call up again.
There's a lot of it about with those West Indian quicks. Yeah. Was it Paul Terry? He broke his arm in his only Test.
That was at Old Trafford, wasn't it? 1984.
We're ready again. Broad to Maddinson. I think they've replaced the ball or changed the ball. He drops this on the leg side, fielded by Ben Slater, who definitely is there at short leg today. Gave him a catch yesterday that he didn't take. It was Matthew Montgomery who'd snuck in there, wrongly accusing everybody. No, it was Slater. Wasn't it? It was Montgomery. No, it was Slater. Wasn't it? It was Montgomery. No, it's oh, sorry. Sorry, everybody. 24 for 3. It's a little deep, though. Ben Slater, a lot deeper than Matthew Montgomery was yesterday. Will come off the bat fairly quickly. This one's guided down past the diving Mulaney again is seeing a lot of traffic in his area at fourth slip. It's been just saved inside the balcony by a combination of the two youngsters, Liam Patterson-White and Lyndon James. Not entirely sure why Lyndon James is wringing his wrist. Went out of my eye line, but maybe he slipped over, but he's got up wringing his wrist. I think he's okay. 26 for 3.
Anyway, going back to John Hampshire. So he got hit on the arm again. Were they playing at Lord's? Did he play in the Lord's test?
Let's say it was.
Yeah, and it was in London, and he was in a lot of pain. And at the end of the day's play, the England doctor decided to send him to Harley Street to go and see a specialist because they were concerned he might have a broken arm. And anyway, he went for X-rays and whatnot. And then the next morning, he came back to the ground. 26 for 3. Fletcher starting a new over. Right arm round. Ooh, playing a miss there from Travascus. I thought he'd nibble that to the keeper. He came back to the ground the next day, and the doctor said to him, "I'm sorry, John, but you've broken your arm." And he said, "Oh, all right." And he said, "But the only thing is," he said, "you didn't break it yesterday, did you? You broke it a week or two ago, because that's quite an old fracture."
Crikey.
So he'd played through the pain so he could play for England. Was that his, did he only play the one test, John, or not? Comes Fletcher again. This is defended. I thought he might have played
I'll
more
have a
than
look.
that.
Yeah, I think he played a little more than that. But
He was also the umpire at Lord's when they took the ball off Pakistan. And that's caused a big row, didn't it? And people were accusing them of ball tampering and all the rest of it. And basically just boiled down to the fact that the ball looked a bit worn and tattered. It wouldn't be unusual to do such a thing these days, would it?
Played 8 test matches
tests.
and 3 ODIs.
Yeah. Fletcher in. Full length delivery played out by Travascus to the cover area, no run. He became pals with my dad because Matty Rosebery built an indoor cricket school in Hortonley Spring, and John used to come up and coach there during the winter. And he was also, it was around about the time he was also the Zimbabwe coach, and we flew out to Dubai a few years ago, 1993 I think it was, and Zimbabwe were playing in a triangular tournament with Sri Lanka and Pakistan, so we had a few days with the Zimbabwe team. Fletcher in, bowls, that was out the back of the hand, slower delivery, played safely up to mid-off by Travascus.
There's only 6 matches left in this round. The 4 in Division 2, 2 left in Division 1. The 2 in Division 1, Northants Essex, a little bit of a dead rubber. Lots to play for at Edgbaston, where if Warwickshire can somehow turn around a little bit of a deficit to defeat Hampshire, they would send Yorkshire down. Either Warwickshire or Yorkshire will be relegated today. And Division 2, no play before lunch, and New Road between Worcestershire and Middlesex play in the other 3 games.
Fletcher in, bowls. This is played back to him. I think it hit him in the shin there. It's just gone behind him. And then a little in-step flick from Stuart Broad, who's just dribbled around the defender and smashed it into the top corner from about 4 yards.
Bambi on ice there, Fletcher.
Well, I've seen him do that before.
He might have stood on the ball, because straight away they've handed it to the umpire.
If he stood
Here
on
we
the
go.
ball,
The season's
there's no
ending.
hope for
Oh,
him.
yeah, waving
He has
straight
stood
away.
on the ball.
Yeah, if you get those big clodhoppers stamped down on it, you're going to
So
do a bit
that
of
ball
damage.
has lasted an over and a delivery.
Well, you've not even got your anecdote out. That's how short that one lasted. 26 for 3. Made a right mess of that one. Big Luke with his size 15 clodhoppers. Properly spiked it. There's no wonder he was sort of thrown off balance. Stood down on the cricket ball. Lovely morning now. Trent Bridge is not packed, but there's a decent number in this. I suspect there's more in than there would be if it was just earlier in the season and not that much at stake potentially. Some will have come along because it's free. Some will have come along because it's the last day of the season and they know it'll be a long old winter hibernation before they see any more cricket. Some will have come along hoping and anticipating the opportunity of being there when Notts are crowned Division 2 champions. Not had anything definitive posted our way that there will be a trophy presentation if they are Division 2 champions. Can only imagine it would happen. Be nice to know, is the trophy here? Who would present that? Is there somebody here from the sponsors or from the ECB? Or will that take place behind closed doors at another date and time? You'd imagine there'd be the opportunity for a trophy celebration today, because I think at the end of yesterday it seemed very likely that the Division 2 title wasn't going to Middlesex, it wasn't going to Cardiff. And
how big's his feet? Gotta be at least size 13, so.
I don't know if it's 13 or 15. It's an odd number. It's one of those two. They're enormous.
Well, he comes in here with his third ball, and he's now appealing for LPW. It's not given.
You know the clown at the circus with the big clodhoppers? Well, they're a bit smaller than Luke's feet. 26 for 3. The end of the over. Travaskis on 8. He's now faced 39 deliveries. Nick Maddinson has 6 from just 4. The other left-hander, Scott Borthwick, the one out this morning, trapped LBW by Stuart Broad for 4. That was when the score was 20 for 3 in the 12th over, the 4th over of the morning. So it's still going to be Broad with his unrelenting assault from the pavilion end. 4 slips, Joe Clark at 1, Matthew Montgomery at 2. And Lyndon James and Stephen Mullaney, who's just busy moving Calvin Harrison, who's on the field as a sub-fielder. And he's gone in at short leg-ish, where Ben Slater was. As Broad is in, bowls defended. So let's have a little look. We've got Seba Mead down at long leg, Fletcher at mid-on, Dane Patterson at mid-off, and Patterson wide at backward point. So Ben Slater must have popped off, presumably just for a little comfort break, or maybe to pop the pads on. I don't know.
Can you remember Tom Quinn Gregson?
Did we never get to the end of his email? Sorry, Tom.
I don't know if there was a wicket. I can't remember what interrupted.
Sorry, Tom.
Might have been a wicket. But.
There's Broad. Maddinson on 6 on strike. Always skewed that one away out onto the offside. Patterson will prevent it from going for 2, for 4 rather, but they do come back for 2 as the throw comes in. Maddinson goes to 8, 28 for 3, back to Tom.
Since moving to Germany, I have loved being able to watch all the games online. Sadly, the only game I could have seen live this summer was the day it reached 40 degrees centigrade and I couldn't face the trip to Derby. Many thanks for all your cracking commentary and congratulations to, I think, Champions Knots, says Tom.
Thank you very much, Tom.
I head indoors that day.
28 for 3. Broad in again to the Australian, who steers this with soft hands to backward point. Max from Emma's Ground Guide. Looks like the free entry has gone down well, watching on the stream. Ridiculous having the final game of the season Monday to Thursday. We mentioned that yesterday.
Yeah, they often are, though, aren't
they? They have been over the last few years.
Quite a few finishes on a Friday, I can remember, but never seemingly on a weekend.
Simon says, well, he's come along for the trophy presentation. The decision yesterday meant there was no excuse for not getting it here, he says. This one goes through to the keeper. Paul Wright, thanks for getting in touch, Paul. Good morning, gents. Thanks for all the superb commentaries over the course of the season. Fantastic service provided by BBC Cricket. Winter well, everybody. April can't come quick enough. Thanks, Paul. Very kind.
Angus says Durham seem to have left themselves rather a lot to do today. They may have to settle for a draw if they're lucky. Thanks for all your wonderful commentary by you and your colleagues. Looking forward to next season, says Angus. Thanks very much, Angus.
Broad past umpire Pratt to Maddinson. No, it's hit back past Broad and past the umpire down the ground. And, well, how many are they going to run here? They've already run 2. Dane Patterson's after it. Should be a comfortable 3 as the South African stretches his legs, gets to it before it reaches the rope in front of the Hound Road stand and fires in a return that's taken by Calvin Harrison. 31 for 3.
This cloud bank that's passing us now, the sun's catching the top of it and you can see it all, the cloud twisting and bubbling up.
Cloud bursting.
Yeah, cloud busting.
Cloud busting.
Yeah. Kate Bush. Winter well, says Andrew.
There's Broad. Final ball of the 14th over, the 6th of the morning. Worked away, I think, off the pad. It's just a whisker past 11 o'clock, so I'm anticipating BBC Radio Nottingham will come for an update in a moment or two. Martin also sensing the time as sashayed along the corridor to go and speak to the listeners in the northeast. 32 for 3. Still going to be Luke Fletcher from our end of the ground. 7 overs, 1 for 7 for Fletcher. Given very little away, as those figures would reflect. Broad, a little more expensive, but he's got 2 of the wickets. 7 overs, 2 for 24 to the England man. Fletcher round the wicket from his favoured Radcliffe Road end. Bowls to Liam Travaskis, who seems intent on blocking his way all through the winter here, and that's no bad thing. Solidly behind it. Pushes it back to Fletcher, who doesn't stand on the ball this time. .32 for 3. I remember Joel Garner doing that once. Almost squashed the ball. Giant of a man, as is Fletcher. He's got it in his hand again and comes in. Bowls into the full face of Liam Travaskis' bat. Durham are going to bat in the same order as they did in the first innings, and they probably will, because George Drissell has come in as night watchman in both innings. It'll be Jonathan Bushnell next, Chris Benjamin at 7, Ben Rain, Matty Potts and Ollie Gibson. Remember, David Beddingham take no further part in the match after dislocating his shoulder on day 2. There's Fletcher. Again, he's required to field off his own bowling as it's pushed back to him. Durham 32 for 3. Notts over 8 still showing us -1. Stephen Mullaney in his post-match interview on the field with Aaron yesterday said might be a little bit of work for Liam Patterson-White today. Yes, and we believe the trophy is here, the Division 2 trophy, which Notts will be hoping to take into their possession sometime later on today. They'll need to bowl Durham out, and already the visitors are 33 for 3. 1 wicket taken this morning by Stuart Broad. He's approaching an individual milestone. He now has 897 first-class wickets, so he might just be looking for 3 of these remaining wickets that Notts need. Remember, Durham are a man light. David Beddingham won't bat, so Notts just need 9 wickets, and that's 6 more. Durham are 33 for 3. Fletcher bowls, good delivery, which goes over the shoulder of Nick Maddinson's bat. A single was taken actually whilst I was doing that update by Travaskis, who's moved on to 9. So Fletcher conceding his 8th run. Gone a little quieter after having Radio Nottingham in my ears for the last couple of minutes. Now Fletcher bowls to Maddinson. This one jags away a little bit, and there's no run. So just a freshener of what's happening in the other games. Northamptonshire playing Essex at Wantage Road. Essex in their second innings, 65 for 6. They lead Northants by 165. At Edgbaston, Warwickshire 80 for 2 in their second innings. They lead Hampshire by 41. So they've somehow got to find a way to win that game, Warwickshire, so they'll no doubt they'll be throwing the bat for the remainder of the morning session and hope to bowl Hampshire out as they set them a run chase later on. Warwickshire lead Hampshire by 41 with 8 wickets remaining. In Division 2, the other 2 East Midlands sides are meeting in Derby. Leicestershire in their second innings 138 for 2, still trailed Derbyshire by 181. At Hove, Sussex are 333 for 1 against Glamorgan. That's a lead of 58. Glamorgan, of course, racking up a big score. Here's Dane Patterson into the attack, replacing Broad. First ball is hit. Travaskis on the pad. He's run all the way down to celebrate, but then turns to see that the umpire's shaking his head. Not out. Might have been just outside the line, but that's a good start from Dane Patterson. First ball eliciting a very confident appeal from both behind and in front of the wicket. And the one other score I haven't given you is because they're not playing at New Road, where Worcestershire and Middlesex are watching it rain. There'll be no play before lunch. A wet outfield. Middlesex will be more than happy with that, because a draw will guarantee them the runners-up spot behind Notts to go up to Division 1 next year. Here's Patterson bowling, and this is played on the leg side. Fielded again by Calvin Harrison. So he's been on now for 3 or 4 overs, Harrison. I think I can see Ben Slater at the far end of the ground. Get the binoculars just to make sure. It is him, yeah. He's got the... it is Ben Slater, so he's coming back. He's got the protective leg pads in his hand rather than on. Patterson bowls, worked away to Calvin Harrison. Hasn't had a lot of cricket this year, it has to be said. Played for Notts in the Blast. Didn't play at all in the 100, and he's yet to make his county championship debut for Nottinghamshire. Indeed, his first class debut for Nottinghamshire. 33 for 3. There's Patterson. Bowls. Oh, that's a bit of a false shot from Maddinson, looking to drive in the V, but the ball skews out all the way along the ground to cover, where Seabermead, open brackets, loses his cap, close brackets, does the fielding. Every time he goes to field, Seabermead, or it seems to be, off comes his cap. He's wedging it back on again, pulling it down towards the ears, trying to get it on nice and tight, but it always seems to blow off or fall off. Patterson, I beg your pardon, bowls. And again, Hamid fields, but this time his cap doesn't fall off, but to be fair, the ball was just trickling towards him, so he just bent down and picked it up. Mike's been in touch. Have a wonderful day, calling Notts home for the title. It's a beautiful, quiet autumn morning here in Amsterdam. Enjoy your well-deserved break, and all the best to you and your colleagues. P.S. Does Notts winning the title mean they get to go out and double the first 11 squad for next season like their footballing neighbours? 33 for 3. This is dropped on the leg side. Been a little bit naughty there, Mike, but yeah, didn't Forest celebrating their promotion, signing an awful lot of players. Was it said that they spent more money in August 2022 than they had in their entire history, or something along those lines? But I hope those of you that were with us earlier in the match very much enjoyed two former Forest players, Colin Barrett and Ian Storymore, popping up to join us. Had 1 or 2 people. Ben Slater came and spent an hour with us. The club president, the outgoing club president, Bashrat Hassan, also came and said hello, and we very much appreciate them giving us of their time.
I never got a response to the text I sent yesterday.
There's Fletcher, here's Martin.
Right arm round the wicket he comes. Defended.
I always ignore your text.
By Maddinson. Norman has emailed. Quite a few people have emailed now since I've been off there. Any chance of rain sometime soon? No.
Maybe Ben Rain.
Yeah. Here's another question to take Dave back down memory lane.
Oh, please do.
Oh, we were well down memory lane last night.
Yeah, we haven't mentioned it, have we?
Brilliant. Which former England fullback and British Lion played for Notts in the 1970s?
Well, who's that from?
Norman Robinson. Fletcher in. Balls. Oh, that's a good leave from Manson.
Is Norman a Durham follower, do we know? Yeah, well, so unbeknown to you, Norman, the last match here a couple of weeks ago coincided with the Notts Former Players Association annual day, so all the former players were here, and it was against Leicestershire, funnily enough, and the gentleman you're referring to, of course, played a long and successful rugby career, which included a long spell with Leicester Tigers. And Dusty Hare, it is who you're referring to, William Henry Hare, came and had an hour with us on commentary with myself and Richard Ray.
Fletcher in. This is defended, goes short on the leg side. I remember Dusty Hare when I was a kid. Used to be, there was a rugby show on BBC Two on a Sunday afternoon, wasn't it? What was it called? Rugby Special?
Something like that. Was it Nigel Starmer-Smith?
Yeah.
Presented it. If it's on, I'll watch it, and the big tournaments come round, I'll watch it, but never really been the biggest rugby fan either code. But like you say, I'll watch live sport, so if it's on, I'll watch it.
Well, you'll watch anything, you.
Great man, William Dusty Hare, man of just outside Newark.
In comes Fletcher, and this is played into the floor and down to third slip, no run there.
But it was very interesting, because he was sort of talking about playing for Notts and the challenges out there as a youngster coming into the team, and a bit of pressure on you to sort of score runs and whatever, and comparing that to the pressure of being at Twickenham in front of 85,000. Last minute drawing with Wales, got to kick I was going to say a field goal. That's American football. Got to kick a penalty. Got to kick, in the last minute to win it, and all the challenges that presents. It was a lovely interview.
Ball played back up towards the bowler's end here by Maddinson. Many thanks for the informative season and commentary, says Norman. Thanks very much, Norman.
It was in England around about that time, Norman, if he's a rugby man. Was it Squires, Peter Squires, England winger, and he played a little bit for Yorkshire as well. And we talked about Alan Old as well, brother of Chris Old, former Yorkshire player. He was another England fly half of that sort of generation, and he played once against Notts for minor counties. We talked about that as well.
Fletcher in bowls. That's left alone by Maddinson. That is the end of the over. 33 for 3. It was a maiden, I think, was it? Good morning, Martin and Mr. Bracegirdle, says Mervyn.
Thank you, Mervyn.
You never miss the water till the well runs dry. So goes the old saying, and this saying will soon be put to the test as we bemoan the passing of yet another season. Your contribution to the listeners will be sorely missed as well. Thank you, Martin, and all your colleagues throughout the land for your invaluable season-long coverage. Wishing you all the very best over the winter, and that you return suitably refreshed for next season.
Is that the wicket-taking Mervyn?
Yes, that is Mervyn.
You're a legend, Mervyn. 33 for 3, as is Dane Patterson. Around these parts, he comes in to bowl, and Travaskis gets it away onto the offside. One or two people have sort of alluded to it already. We had left Trent Bridge last night, Martin and myself, about 6:45, found our way into town, got to the Royal Concert Hall just in time. We had a lovely evening watching some, bringing back a lot of memories. The Soul Legends evening or something they called it, didn't they?
Yeah.
There's one or two people that perhaps, memory sort of, forgotten about him, but it was terrific, wasn't it? There's Patterson, 33 for 3, bowling to Travaskis.
Yeah, I had to say I was sitting there and I couldn't criticise, really.
You see, I know what you're doing there, because that's an
You've missed 3 already.
Oh, I have to apologise. That's an Alexander O'Neill song, and he did say last night, I'm going to see how many song titles I can get in. Well, there was silly games from Janet Kay's song. She came out and did a couple of numbers. We had Gwen Dickey from Rolls Royce, did all her big hits, Car Wash and Wishing on a Star and all that sort of thing. So you'll have to tell me what you've missed. This is dropped on the leg side by Travaskis. He'll take a single. I can remember Jackie Graham and one or two big hits, but you were a big fan, and I think you really enjoyed Jackie Graham, and she was the one that kept saying, we're making memories, people, we're making memories. How are you, darling? How are you, darling? To all the front rows. Lovely.
Where would she be from? Where did they say darling all the time? Is that East Midlands or not? That's more Love and Duck, isn't it?
I don't know where Jackie Graham's from. I'll have a little look. But
we did wonder if it was the real Alexander O'Neill or a fake, didn't we? I mean, he's 68, I think he is now.
Patterson bowls. Maddinson drives to mid-off. Jackie Graham is from Birmingham, I can tell you, and she's 66. But crikey. She was on fine form last night. She was the one straight after the interval, and we sort of
bouncing, didn't she?
We settled down after a glass of something refreshing to rehydrate and watched her. But yeah, it was a
Janet Kay was good.
A lovely evening. Janet Kay, the silly games and what was the other one she did? Was it the Minnie Riperton song? No, Candy Staton, Young Hearts Run Free, wasn't it?
No, she didn't sing that, but did she sing a song called Free?
That was Denise Williams did Free. I've got the
Denise Williams who sang.
I can tell you, folks, if you hang on a second, because I've got the running order.
Well, Denise Williams sang the song.
Janet Kay did Silly Games and Loving You.
Loving You. It sounded nice when she sang it.
It did, yeah. Gwen Dickey did Wishing on a Star, Love Don't Live Here Anymore, and Car Wash.
Yeah, I think she was slightly better than Jimmy Nail.
Yes, he did that, didn't he? Yeah. Patterson bowls to Madison. He thought he'd got through. Maddinson thought he'd got through his defences, but he hadn't. The lady that started it all off, we hadn't particularly heard of. Candice Woodson, American lady, had won a reality show over there. My word, she'd got a pair of lungs on her. Well, not in every sense. She was a terrific singer, wasn't she? Yeah. She could hit the top notes. Really enjoyed listening to her. It was Candice Woodson, Janet Kay doing her big hits, Gwen Dickey from Rolls Royce, Alexander O'Neill, that was the first half, and then afterwards Jackie Graham, Denise Williams and Tunde, the lead singer from the Lighthouse Family, and Martin hung around till the end. I it was getting on for 11 o'clock. I left just before the end, but Martin saw it through on our behalf. 35 for 3.
Representing the two of us. Yeah. I left about 11:15. I think it was coming to an end about then. What was Denise Williams' song out of Footloose? Let's Hear It for the Boy, wasn't it? Which was a massive hit in the mid-80s.
You see, There's Liam Patterson-White.
Liam Patterson-White, change of plan here, and he's going for an LBW appeal first delivery. It's not given, and Maddinson survives to see another day.
There was you hadn't seen it,
but they've decided that come off the bat.
Anybody who saw Max and Paddy, there was an episode where Paddy, what's his name? Paddy in real life. Paddy McGuinness was teaching Peter Kay's character to dance, and they did that.
What, to the Footloose song?
They did it to that song. Yeah, terrific. Yeah.
Patterson-White in again, left arm spin. It's a full toss and it's swept. It's got very dark all of a sudden. Floodlights might come on in a minute, which takes me to this email from Keith. What's your opinion on the use of floodlights? It seems to me it's just a waste of money because the play stops as soon as the light deteriorates. I know, I think they get a lot of overs in that they wouldn't do, but
I think floodlights are principally for the evening games, aren't they? That's why they were brought in. Just adds a little bit, as you say, to the confusion in red ball cricket.
Travaskis with a little nudge to this delivery, plays at the mid wicket to Hamid. Oh, Peter, this is War and Peace, man. Take half an hour to read this out.
That's what we like.
Peter Edwards. Good morning, gentlemen, and thanks to Adrian for providing.
Was that last week? Well, we like Adrian. Yeah. We all like Adrian.
Yeah. Another sweep. He's out. He's totally messed that one up, Travaskis. He's looking at the umpire as if to say that didn't come off my bat. So did that come off the helmet?
Well, they all went up and the umpire's finger went up.
Yeah, but Travaskis just looked surprised that was given there. Let's just see.
I think he was probably surprised where the ball ended up at slip. Congratulations to Liam Patterson-White as well, because he has now got 50 wickets for the season for the Notts, 39 in the Championship.
Dave, I think that's hit him on the helmet there. Not that it matters in the greater scheme of things, but...
Ballooned up to Stephen Mullaney at slip. Travaskis caught Mullaney, bowled LPW for 14, 84 minutes. Liam Travaskis' innings faced 56 balls and 2 fours.
Yeah, the dreaded sweep shot. How many times do people get themselves into trouble on that? Jonathan Bushnell coming in. It was him and Maddinson who put a little bit of a partnership together yesterday. What did Travaskis make?
He scored 14.
Well, Durham, to me, don't look long for this world, and so this season may be over sooner rather than later, but we do have a day today that I don't think any of us expected we would have yesterday afternoon, but for the fact that Notts didn't bother enforcing the follow-on.
Did you have a lengthy email that you wanted?
I do, yeah, but we need to update everybody about what's happening here.
is Bushnell. Patterson White then to Bushnell. Pushes his first ball up to mid-off, and there's no run. Made 37 in the first innings. Jonathan Bushnell. Eventually dismissed by Patterson White. A catch, funnily enough, by Mullaney. This one's pushed into the offside, where Asiba Meadfields end of the 19th over. Durham 40 for 4. Applause for the spinner, who in his first over has taken a wicket. I think he did in the first innings when he got Sean Dixon very early on, certainly in his spell. And Liam Travaskis' season is over with a score of 14. Just joining us for the first time in the match, or certainly over the last week or two, you hear banging and all sorts of noises off mic. Lot of building work going on just outside the ground, just over the
he's right on the top
Bridgeford Road there, as they're building some care homes, some apartment flats, whatever they are.
Patterson bowling to Maddinson, starting you over. You've got to have a head for height up there. He's climbing out of the little.
Yeah.
Would you call it a gondola? The basket on there?
I don't really know.
Right on top of the building then.
Go on, plough on. You've got that long email.
Where is this email?
I've got one or two messages as well. We'll get to them in the fullness of time, folks.
This is Peter Edwards. Good morning, gentlemen, and thanks to Adrian for providing an email address so that I can contact you, because I don't do Twitter. Apologies if I ramble on, having taken this chance to get in touch. Patterson from the pavilion end, right arm round to Maddinson. It's appealing for LBW, and he's been given. I was about to say everything looked wrong about that, but Peter's email is the kiss of death for Durham, isn't it? Maddinson out, and he's gone for 13, and Durham crumbling at a rate of Nottingham.
Gone for 13. Perhaps in a way it was a real shame that you weren't reading out another email from Mervyn there, as that wicket went down. 40 for 5. Start the car, start the coach, maybe. Nick Maddinson, 38 minutes at the crease, 23 balls he faced, hit 1-4 and has fallen. And we're not through the 20th over yet, and Durham are 5 down. They've lost 3 wickets this morning inside an hour. So not so getting there. They're getting to where they need to be. 4 more wickets for the home side, and that will be it. That will be the end of the allocation for the 2022 season. The men out today. Scott Borthwick, LBW, Stuart Broad for 4. That was 20 for 3 in the 12th over. Liam Travaskis caught Mullaney bowled Liam Patterson White for 14. That was 40 for 4 in the 19th. And now in the 20th, Nick Maddinson, LBW, to Dane Patterson for 13. 40 for 5 in the 20th. And Jonathan Bushnell, I'm sure, will be joined by Chris Benjamin. Yeah, it's Benjamin. Former, well, not a former Warwickshire man. He's a Warwickshire man, but he's on loan with Durham. Made a duck in the first innings, so comes out on a pair. Was given out, caught short leg by Matthew Montgomery off Liam Patterson White in the first innings yesterday.
Chris Benjamin in. Playing in his last game of 2 before he returns to Warwickshire. Durham have signed Kent's wicketkeeper batsman Ollie Robinson for next season. And, we'll need to bring in a few more, I would imagine. Could do with a bowler.
From afar, that looks at a little bit of a strange decision. Ollie Robinson, he's playing for Kent. He's scoring runs, taking catches for Kent.
He wasn't, though, as Patterson comes in and bowls. This is defended. He was 3rd choice when their main keeper was back, and so he came to Durham in the T20s on loan.
Of course, they've got Billings as a skipper, and he's in and out of the side, and sometimes he keeps and sometimes he doesn't. But perhaps the opportunity to do it regularly. Did we get through that email?
No, I haven't even started with it. Every time I start reading it, there's a wicket.
Go on, have another go.
Right, fourth attempt. Patterson in. That's edged down into the ground towards a slip corn by Benjamin.
The numberless Benjamin.
Yeah. Right, he says, the first professional cricket match I went to was the England-South Africa test at Trent Bridge in 1975 when I saw Barry Richards score a fabulous 125. I was hooked and became a junior member, devotedly following Notts. Originally, I think, under Norman Hill. Throughout my years in school in Nottingham, cycling to the ground from Burton Joyce, meeting friends and often scoring the entire match. In comes Patterson, that's driven by Benjamin to backward point. I'm just looking for lashings of ginger beer here, but I haven't seen it yet. He said, many glorious memories, often of other teams scoring a pile of runs in those days. Ken Barrington turning up at Whitson and getting to yet another 100 with a 6. Canhigh and Ibadullah putting a 400 together for Warwickshire. But then also the privilege of watching Sobers as well as Bolus, Smedley, Carlton, Forbes, Barry Stead and many others. Work and family life then rather got in the way of following closely, as these things often do, as Patterson comes in here to Benjamin. He drives at that one and he's going to get some runs. It's gone out through the covers for 2 by the looks of things. Yeah, so work and family life then rather got in the way of following closely while I lived for a time in Paris and Frankfurt. But when we came back to live in Hertfordshire, I then retired and I've kept in touch and gone to the occasional Notts game at Lord's. 2 or 3 years ago, I came across the live BBC local radio coverage and have been hugely grateful for the company of Dave and all of his radio colleagues ever since. That's a rarity, Dave. Getting across not only the action but the background and the atmosphere, and in that time the live streams improved immensely and is massively appreciated. It's a massively appreciated service. He says, the last day of this successful Notts campaign felt like the right time to give my thanks to all involved. That's Peter Edwards. Thank you very much, Peter.
Very much so. Thank you, Peter. Some lovely memories there. There's Liam Patterson-White, 42 for 5. Bowling to Jonathan Bushnell, who defends this one. And
Graham says, just to say cheers to you and your colleagues for all the excellent commentary this year. I'm now most definitely a county cricket convert and look forward to more punishment in 2023.
Patterson-White bowls to Bushnell, that one slightly quicker. Hurried on to the right-hander, who just reacted the last second to jab his bat down on it.
He says, I can't believe what I've been missing all these years, and the audio has been a godsend. Thanks very much, Anth.
42 for 5. Next one sees him push into the offside, and there's going to be a single. 43 for 5. Bushnell's off the mark, his first run.
Paul Sadler says, morning gents, gutted the county championship is coming to an end already and I'm counting down to next season, but is there any chance of Dave Bracegirdle getting an email address as I don't do Twitter or Facebook? Good luck for Durham for next season. Super Notts County Cricket Club, says Paul.
43 for 5, deflected down the leg side by Benjamin. Gonna go all the way, I think, to the rope in front of the pavilion. Yeah, just crosses the rope now, and there's a boundary. 47 for 5. Messages continue to come in. Richard Dawson, where's the season gone, Dave? I've loved all the county championship. Pleased to see Asiba Mead back to his best. Thanks for all the work this season. Look forward to whatever next season brings. Fingers crossed for Notts. Thank you, Richard. And now you've been a fairly regular contributor, so many thanks for all your contributions throughout the course of the season.
Bernard says, it looks like you're not heading for a late afternoon finish today. I think I have previously suggested you have a cupboard where you hibernate during the winter when there's no cricket on.
Patterson-White now to bowl again round the wicket to Benjamin. He's cut that away, stopped at backward point by Broad and prevents Benjamin from scampering off for a run. That was good work from Broad. Roger Barnes, hi Dave, I didn't come today, poor weather here in Kirkby and Ashfield, so I'm watching on the live stream. I was going to ask about any negative over rate. You've just mentioned it's still -1. That's something we can't see here on the stream. It could be important. It's still showing us -1 as well, Roger. Thank you for that and for your contributions. Next ball pushed by Benjamin into the offside. Very proud parent here, Dan White. I'm just so proud, Dave, of obviously this is Liam Patterson White's Dan. A massive shout out to Lyndon James as well this season on his form, on his 100 in this particular match as the sun comes on the stream. It's been an absolute pleasure to see both of them develop over the last 12 or so years coming through the Notts system. Here's to many more years with Notts and maybe even higher honours. Dan, many congratulations to you and to the family. I know you've supported, as have Lyndon James' family, strong supporters of the game, of the team. You've always encouraged the youngsters, always been there for them, and always sent very nice, kind messages through. Thank you very much to Dan and to the families of all the players.
New over from Patterson defended. Bernard goes on to say, the commentaries remain entertaining, which are always unscripted and spontaneous, and no matter who you're with, you create something that fully justifies the award that has been given to you and your BBC colleagues this year. That was by the Cricket Society yesterday.
Imagine trying to script this. Although it is something that I know you do. You spend a lot of time doing it, and I do as well. We do a little bit of prep. It has to be said.
A lot of prep.
Yeah. Has eased into the offside. There are days when conversations, thanks primarily to the messages we get, sort of take us off on a little bit of a tangent, and sometimes we have to apologise because we know people like us to stick to the cricket a lot of the time, but we do also have to have the relevant milestones and statistics and bits and pieces, because it just couldn't otherwise be. Yep. X bowls to Y, no run. X bowls to Y. Boring. So we do a little bit of the old background work.
Patterson in here. Benjamin plays this to point. He's going to go for a quick single. I mean, for each county championship match, for instance, I would spend between, I would say, 6 and 8 hours doing match notes, research, updating my stats. And then, a lot of it's fresh in your head and you just remember things that are relevant to events you see on the field. But
there's an update for Radio Nottingham. 49 for 5. Right, they've not won this game, Mark. What they have done is already secured enough bonus points in this match so far to secure promotion up to Division 1. You can potentially get 24 points from a game made up of 16 points for a win. Just in front of me here, we're just seeing Notts celebrate, but it's not going to be a wicket. 16 points for a win. You can get a maximum of 8 bowling and bonus points through the course of the game, bowling and batting points. So Notts have already done enough with bat and ball through this game to get those bonus points, and that takes them sufficiently clear of the third place side, Glamorgan. So it will be Notts and Middlesex that go up. Now what Notts have got to do is go on and finish this game with a win. That will mean Middlesex can't catch them, so they'll win the title. So essentially they're playing to win this game, which will make sure they win the title as well. The silverware, we understand there's a trophy here to be presented should they win it later on. Now we are expecting them to do that, and I think everybody now looking at the scoreboard says it could happen in a little bit of a hurry, because Notts have taken 3 more wickets this morning to leave Durham 49 for 5. Durham are a man light as well. David Beddingham, who used to play for Plumtree Cricket Club, really talented player, dislocated his shoulder on the second day, so he won't bat. Makes Notts' task a little easier. They need 9 wickets. They've got 5 of them, so 4 more might happen this side of lunch, might happen the other side of lunch. Durham are 49 for 5. Yep. Correct. 49 for 5. There's Patterson bowling, and Bushnell pushes it into the offside, and that's the 50 up.
They were appealing for caught behind off Bushnell earlier, and the umpire Neil Pratt said no.
In case those of you watching or listening couldn't hear the presenter, the confusion is we all thought Notts had won yesterday. They hadn't. They clinched promotion, but they hadn't won this particular game. Was in essence what I was trying to get over.
Yeah. Sometimes it's difficult trying to explain cricket.
Who's winning?
To people who don't know.
Yeah, who's winning?
I said on air earlier, Durham needed snookers to get a draw out of this one today, and Anna, our presenter, said, "What does that mean exactly?" And I said, "Well," I said, "It's what I'm trying to say is the staring at the jaws of defeat and the on the likelihood of a hammering."
Jaws. So there's jaws there. Patterson White round the wicket, bowling to Bushnell. The Killer Bees. Bushnell and Benjamin, single taken, 51 for 5. Matthew, hi Dave, thanks to you and all your colleagues for the wonderful commentaries that you provide this season. Let's hope you're describing a successful season in the top division next year. This one is guided away skillfully by Benjamin, opened the face, lovely looking shot, and he's run it down to the rope and then into the advertising boards in front of the Hound Road stand for 4. That was a lovely shot. Beautiful.
Bernard says his only trip to Trent Bridge was in 1985 when England beat the West Indies in an ODI with Derek Pringle being named man of the match. Would that not have been 1984? The Windies were here in 84, weren't they?
Windies were in 84, yeah, I think. Well, they were, yeah. Andy Eason, morning gents. Many thanks for the commentaries and banter throughout the season. Your highlights and lowlights would be interesting. Do you get together for a drink during the dark months? Next ball worked out onto the leg side, there's no run. We'll be hearing you calling my beloved pies from time to time. Macaulay Langstaff, he says. We've done one or two Notts County games. Macaulay Langstaff, a man of the North East, has been banging in the goals. Another single taken here, 56 for 5.
Where did he join Notts County?
In the close season from Gateshead.
I'm wondering if I interviewed him on Total Sport last year.
May well have done.
It was just towards the end of the season we were talking about how Gateshead could be ready to lift off if they got promoted.
Next ball is pushed up to mid-off and there's no run. Well, they did get promoted, but Notts County pinched their 2 front men, Macaulay Langstaff and Kedwin Scott, and they're both banging in the goals. 56 for 5, next delivery on its way, and it's blocked. And the answer to do we get together for a drink during the close season, well, normally it would be this coming week, the big the cricket writers' lunch. But for the first time in 10 years, I'm standing him up. I'm not going to that one, so Martin will be billing.
Plenty of us will be there next week.
Billy no mates, Martin. Kevin, why they never made them bat again yesterday remains a ridiculous decision to me.
Somebody in the stand said, well, it's quite understandable why they didn't make them bat again. I said, really? They only bowled 57 overs.
David Revel, morning Dave, many thanks for the excellent red ball coverage this year. With perfect symmetry, I'm now down with COVID on the last day of the season as I was on the first day of the season.
New over from Patterson, played by Benjamin, nicely out through mid-wicket to wide. Long on for 4.
As I was on the first day of the season, listening to you at Hove, winter well, and see you in Division 1. Thank you, David. Hope you get, hope the symptoms aren't too bad this time and you quickly recover. Yeah, Hove was an absolute nightmare for me because, well, you saw me the second game of the season. I just couldn't get rid of that cough, and it just lingered and lingered and lingered and lingered after I'd had the old COVID. Missed the entire programme of pre-season events. Didn't feel like it was sort of cricket season. I don't know. Horrible.
Well, I've had it twice this year. Benjamin's forward to this one, so I got it on February the 1st. I had to have about 7 or 8 days off work, I think it was, by then. And then that was after I'd got a really nasty cough in mid-January, which I was convinced was COVID, but never actually turned into it. And then after that cough, I thought I'd better go and get a booster jab. And then 3 days after the booster jab, I came down with COVID. And then I had it again a few weeks ago after the Warwickshire game in the one-day cup.
I think it was David who said the highs and lows of the season as well. We did all that yesterday, David. We went through a lot of the youngsters doing well.
Patterson to Benjamin, played up to Broad at mid-off. Bernard says, I will finish by wishing you and your colleagues good health in the coming months.
Thank you, Bernard.
Where a severe flu epidemic is forecast, he says. I hope you're all fit and healthy next April.
Oh, thanks Martin. Thanks, Bernard. Tony says, thanks for all the comms this year. Been a pleasure to listen along for the weekday games. All the best for your winter football travels, and cheers to Martin as well for this week. Thank you, Tony.
Peter's been back on. He said, sorry to accidentally have called you Adrian. A senior moment, he says.
That's quite all right.
Patterson in, turned by Benjamin out through mid-wicket, and that's away for 4. It was in the air momentarily, but it was nowhere near a catching chance.
60 for 5, becomes 64 for 5. Steve Williams, Egg and Bacon, Morecambe and Wise, Laurel and Hardy, Bracegirdle and Emerson. Thank you, Steve. He then goes on to say it's always a pleasure to listen to you both together. Thank you, Steve. Very, very kind.
Mervyn says Durham have all day to bat here and sweeping doesn't help the situation. No, that was how Travascus got out. First over from Patterson White, and he was out sweeping. Patterson in, cut down into the ground by Benjamin. It comes off his back foot and rolls to point, no run.
Steve Crawley says, we don't forget that you guys have to suffer the Norcross shirts occasionally in your commentaries, and so you're worth an award for that in itself. Yeah, have you seen Daniel this year? I did the Middlesex game with him.
He came and saved my bacon at Middlesex, actually, because the third voice we were meant to have for that game transpired was on holiday. And I was going up to Wembley, so Dan came and covered for me for the afternoon.
He did. He joined me at Lord's.
Patterson bowls, Benjamin plays us to mid-on. And actually he had a fairly normal shirt that day. I was really disappointed. He was going that night to see Andy Saltzman on stage in the West End, so he was dressed appropriately, I think. Yes.
Everything that you think from listening or seeing pictures of Dan Norcross, folks, is absolutely true. Enjoyed some time in his company. Mandy says that last appeal looked out. Dave must have been close. Sorry, Mandy, you maybe sent that a while ago. We might have had one or two more since then. 64 for 5 it remains. Are we going to get lunch today, Martin? 45 minutes or so remain in the session.
Norman Robinson says it was good to hear the mention of Alan Auld in your earlier response. Patterson White left arm around the wicket from the Radcliffe Road end. Quick single here from Bushnell, and taking on the arm of Fletcher, who targets the stumps at the keeper's end.
Ball looks like a grape in his hands, doesn't it?
He says, I forever remembered as part of the 1973 Durham Legends side beating Yorkshire. And he says another one Dave will remember is Alistair Hignell, who played cricket for Gloucestershire.
That's right.
Yeah. This is defended, goes out through the offside, and he said, not forgetting Mike Weston, who was an England international, British Lion, whilst also playing for Durham City RFC. Well, it was Mike Weston and Matt Rosebery who decided to build the cricket centre in Houghton after their boys had been going down for coaching sessions at the MCC at Lord's, the indoor school there. In comes Patterson White. This is defender. In fact, Matty told me once that he basically just got a copy of the plans from the indoor school at Lord's and replicated them in Houghton Spring.
Gordon says England once fielded a rugby side containing Hare, Dodge and Swift. Thank you, Gordon.
Sounds like a dodgy firm of lawyers, doesn't it? That one skids on a little bit and is played away by Bushnell in the offside.
It's lovely to spend a bit of time with Dusty Hare, actually, and it's just nice that it was here for the Leicestershire game as well, because obviously we engaged a lot of the Leicestershire supporters, the Leicester Tigers fans.
Patterson White in again, defended by Bushnell. I remember as a kid, I used to love the tune to Rugby Special or whatever it was called, but the Leicester used to have letters on their shirts instead of numbers, didn't they?
I think they did, yeah. I think they did. Yeah. I'd say not a great follower of rugby union, but yeah, I think they did.
Here comes the bowler again. That's left outside the off stump. End of the over. 66 for 5, 1 run. Stuart Major says, real thanks for the commentaries from real cricket matches this season. By the way, delighted for the BBC receiving the award. Must be tricky, especially if you're covering Durham with its exasperatingly eccentric season. Looking forward to next season, and genuine thanks to everybody in this one. Stuart in Sedbergh. Tom's been back on. I think Notts could break the championship record of highest victories in terms of runs. I think the previous highest was 483 when Surrey beat Leicestershire in 2002. So runs margin, you mean? Yeah.
Oh, that's a good one. Durham require 511 more, it says on the bottom. This one, bottom of the Batman board. This one keeps a little low. Goes through to Tom Moores. Steve Battlemuch. Dave, thanks for the commentaries this season. It's been good background listening whilst I've been working. Congratulations to Stephen Mullaney and the entire team for the promotion. We shouldn't even have been in this division this season, should we? Well, I guess you take your punishment, and whether it had happened in 2020 or 2022, they finished bottom in 2019, and as such probably had to serve a year. This one's worked onto the leg side. I think the players were all very philosophical about it. Of course, wasn't all the players that are here at the start of this season that were involved in 2019, but the last 2 years I think we're just grateful to get back to county championship cricket. Over the last 2 years, by the way, Notts have won. They won 8 out of 11. 8 out of the 11 last year, and 7 out of 13 going into this game. So what's that? 15 out of the last 24 matches in red ball cricket they've won. As Benjamin drops this on the leg side, they're looking to make that 16 out of 25.
That's quite a good recovery from where they were. 31 games without a win, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, 31 without a win, and then win 16 out of 25 to back it up.
This I've got the list in front of me, which has just been mentioned as record victories. 483 runs, Surrey against Leicestershire at the Oval in 2002. Next on the list, Sussex Gloucestershire in Hove, 470, that was 1913. In 2014, Hampshire beat Essex by 470 runs. 2019, Kent beat Yorkshire by 433.
Next ball is defended. Just have a look whilst we're on that theme of Nottinghamshire's highest run victories, if we can find it. 66 for 5. It's not taking anything for granted, it's just something that may well occur. Next ball, bouncer, pulled away by Benjamin, out onto the leg side. Hamid's out there. Well, what can I see? I can see largest margin of innings victory, largest margin of runs victory. That'll be it, won't it? Largest margin of runs victory. Right, in first class cricket, 541 runs. That's against Durham MCCU, the poor old northeasterners.
Whether it's 19 or something.
whether it's Durham or Durham MCCU, but yeah, they were leathered here in 2013. 517 by Cambridge at Fenners in 2016. 344 by Cambridge at Fenners. Next one goes through to the keeper. But in terms of largest margin of runs victory against another first-class county in the county championship is 330 runs against Derbyshire at Queen's Park, Chesterfield in 1904. So that's another one that, well, probably with the following win they should break today, because well, Durham need another 200 runs to avoid that. So it could well be Nottinghamshire's largest margin of runs victory. And I'm sure, talking of doing a homework going into the games, I should have had that to hand, but we've been able to find it. I'm sure somebody will pinch that stat a little later on. This is eased into the offside, fielded by Hamid.
I'm just looking for team records overall in first class cricket, but doesn't seem to have the highest margin.
This one's driven into the offside for a single by Benjamin. Actually, no sign of not ripping through this partnership. Worth 28, which Benjamin's share is 24. Patterson White bowls another run here. Be at least 2. Montgomery's chasing after it. They'll probably come back for 3. They will. So that was nicely played by Jonathan Bushnell, working it behind square into the gap on the leg side. And he goes from 4 to 7. Durham are 71 for 5 here on BBC Radio Nottingham. BBC Newcastle with Dave Bracegirdle and Martin Emerson. Season that began for Notts, as we said, down at Hove. As cold as I've ever seen it. Never been to that part of the world in April. Well, I guess it was a bit of a freak week as well, weather-wise. It was bitter, absolutely biting cold. A wind that you took one step forward and it blew you 2 back. 71 for 5.
Oh.
Where did Durham begin the season?
Yeah, that in Cardiff, where they lost nearly 2 days to hailstorms. There was just a pile of ice on the field for a day. But I've been in Hove in May, where I've nearly been blown over.
Patterson White bowls nicked, caught. No, it's gone
missed it.
through Stephen Mullaney at slip, and they'll have a couple of runs. Stuart Broad has to jog down to third man to fetch the ball back. It went very quickly
a bit of a
off
shave
the edge.
there, didn't it, off his chin?
2-2. Benjamin moves on to 28. Just have a little look at that. Yeah, went very quickly just to Stephen Mullaney's left.
Bernard says he dreads to think what the Duckworth-Lewis par would be in this game if there was one.
73 for 5. Next one is pushed out into the offside for a single. 74 for 5, or the old, is it the waspy thing that you used to have on the screen saying your percentage of winning from here? What would Durham's percentage?
Whatever
of
that used to say, I always used to think, right, well, the other team will win.
Yes, it sometimes gave what appeared to be a little bit of a false reading, didn't it? End of the over. We had 27 overs in the innings. Last wicket went down in the 20th. 74 for 5. Dane Patterson, 6 overs, 1 maiden, 1 for 15. I think if he was umpiring, he might have had 3 wickets. He's jubilantly celebrated a couple that weren't given.
In comes Patterson, defended by Benjamin. Just trying to see how many Twitter messages I've missed now.
Yeah, they go through very quickly. Sorry, folks, if we have missed any.
Derek says, thanks for another great season. Autumn well, happy Christmas. Winter well, stay happy and warm.
Happy New Year.
I'm looking for next Easter here.
Happy New Year.
Walking 24 hours for the British Heart Foundation on December the 21st. Possibly around a lake, he says. He did that last year in Bromsgrove. Patterson in. Played up to mid-on, no run there.
Warwickshire are 146 for 6 in their second innings. There is huge relevance to that one. They lead Hampshire by 107 with 4 wickets remaining. They've got to win that, or Warwickshire are relegated. But if they are able to set Hampshire some sort of score and then bowl Hampshire out, it would be Warwickshire who stayed up and Yorkshire go down. But they're very much well, they're almost requiring snookers.
Well,
Warwickshire,
one of the clubs who have one of the elite grounds, not being in the top division. This is turned down towards fine leg by Benjamin for 1 run. These two have put on 35 so far. Benjamin has 28, Bushnell 7, 75 for 5. Durham 502 away. Simon Casely says Durham are saving the worst till last with regards to this performance.
Yeah, there are definitely mitigating circumstances here, irrespective of the fact they're playing a side that's cock-a-hoop and in form and won the toss. Durham lost Paul Coughlin on the morning of the game, and David Beddingham unable to bat in either innings.
Oh, it's got very dark again all of a sudden. As the balls playing a miss there from Bushnell. I said Durham haven't been at the races this week, and somebody's used the asterisk and said this season. Well, they've had a lot of draws, that's been the issue. The only how many have they lost now?
It's a run chase on now at Wantage Road. Essex in their second innings have been bowled out for 110, so Northants need 211 to win. Could be a good game there.
Patterson in, turned by Bushnell into the air, but it's safe and it's away towards the camera position, halfway up the Fox Road stand for 4. As bad as some of the cricket has been this year, and at times it's been horrendous, there's only 2 sides who've actually beaten Durham, Notts and Middlesex, and they are the 2 who are going up by the looks of things. Notts are about to complete the double, you'd imagine. They had one bad session at Lord's where it all went wrong for them on the Saturday afternoon, and they lost to Middlesex. Patterson comes in and bowls. This is defended. Of their wins, they've beaten the 2 teams below them in the last 2 weeks, and the only other win was against Glamorgan, who've been up in the promotion fight for the majority of the year. And then the rest of the season, and this is the big bit, 8 draws. It's the most they've had in a season compared to games played.
Into the over, 79 for 5. Did wonder if we were heading towards a pre-lunch finish when those 3 wickets went down relatively quickly. This morning, Borthwick out for 4, Travaskis for 14, Maddinson for 13, wickets for Broad, Patterson and Patterson White, who's bowling now. But this 6-wicket partnership. Now worth 39, 79 for 5. This one is just played into the offside.
You might have read this one out. I don't know. Paul Wright says, "Good morning, gents. Thanks to you all for all of the superb commentaries."
Next one cut away for a single, 80 for 5.
Over the course of the season, fantastic service on BBC Cricket year after year. Winter well, April can't come quickly enough.
Thank you, sir. Yes. LPW, Patterson White bowling, little push into the offside. There's no run. You made something there about, if Notts win, they'd do the double over Durham. Just wondering if they had actually ever done that before. So they've beaten Durham 12 times, 93, 94, 2002, 2004, 2004 and 2004. So they obviously did the double that season. 6, 10, 11, 12, 16, 17 and 22. This one's worked onto the leg side, so Notts have done the double over Durham in 2004, so it wouldn't be the first time were they to go on and win today. $80 for 5. Jonathan Bushnell has 11. He's looked a very tidy player, orderly, good technique against pace and spin. Pushes his latest delivery up to Joe Clark at mid-off. No run. First time I mentioned Joe Clark, I think today. He was undefeated yesterday when Stephen Mullaney declared the Notts innings closed on 121 for 2. Lyndon James doing the fielding at mid-wicket. Sort of a little bit of a scrappy close to that third day yesterday. Went off, and there were times during the 40 minutes or so where they were off the field where it appeared as if we got very good, clear playing conditions, bright sunshine. The umpires were out there with their light meters, but were shielding their eyes from the sun to read them. It just seemed a little bonkers. And then they decided we could play, and Stephen Mullaney at that point declared, and Durham had to face 8 overs before the light pulled in, and they lost 2 wickets last night. Stuart Broad's coming back, 7 overs, 2 for 24. His figures. He got rid of Dixon last night, and this morning dismissed Scott Borthwick.
Mark says, "Morning, chaps from sunny Stamford. Thanks so much to you, Dave, and all the comms guys for the chat throughout this season. It brings the county cricket community together in a lovely way."
Thank you, Mark. It was,
stay healthy.
One of our regulars.
What's KBO mean and all that? Don't know what that means.
It's probably a cable channel, is it? KBO. Keep backing the Outlaws?
Maybe.
Don't know.
No idea. Broad into the attack from the pavilion end, bowling to Benjamin, who flicks the ball away one-handed, a short leg. No run there.
Always gets me those American channels and the radio channels. Tune in to KFCGD.
Yeah.
98.5 FM on ZBWCT radio. What on earth?
That's a good channel, that. Especially in DAB. 80 for 5, Durham. As Broad comes in and bowls to Benjamin, who plays it up in the air, and somehow it's not been caught. It just looped past Broad and bounced just in front of Fletcher at mid-off, but I was just expecting Broad to just put his hand up there and catch that.
Nice little chip onto the green, wasn't it?
Yeah. What's Durham's lowest score against Notts? 93 all out in Chesley Street in 2004. The Notts by an innings and 80 runs.
Well, that was the year that Notts did the double then for the only time.
And they were all out for 117 in the second innings at Chesley Street this year. Broad in, playing a miss there from Benjamin. And they lost by an innings and 141. He sent the replies to... Somebody said replies to what that might mean. I've never heard of that.
Keep banging on, essentially.
Banging on.
Simon Aldridge in Norfolk has been in touch after this delivery from Broad.
Broad comes in and bowls. played out through the covers nicely by Benjamin. That's right out the middle of the bat and races off towards the boundary for 4.
Looks good to me. Signed Ollie Robinson as keeper bat, but might just, before I said goodbye to Chris Benjamin, I might just say, well, what's your situation for next year? He's looked good. Simon, good morning, gents. Always a better season when your team is winning, but many thanks to you all anyway for another great season of county cricket commentary. All the best. Thank you, Simon, and thanks for all your contributions throughout the last few years. Many thanks.
Broad, wide headband on, comes and bowls. That's left alone. A quick one, I've got to go next door now. But Ben Oliver's emailed. He says, thank you, Marty, for another great season of commentary, stats and banter. It's helped me through many a dour day of spreadsheets. I heard 1 or 2 mentions of Alan Old this morning. He was one of my neighbours up until a few months ago when he moved house. He's a lovely fella. Hope you and Mr. Bracegirdle will winter well, and I look forward to tuning in again next season.
He played at Newark, at Elm Avenue, Newark, in the old Benson Hedges Cup for the minor counties against Notts. I wasn't that old. Went down there and had a little bit of a look at it as this one jags back and it's kept out by Benjamin. If memory serves, dear old Basher, who came up and joined us, the Notts president, Basher Hassan, I think he got runs in that game. But Alan Old, that was a prized autograph, because of course he was, apart from being a minor counties cricketer playing against Notts, was, as you say, an England rugby international.
He must have lived up in Northumberland then, because he goes on to say...
Was he a Middlesbrough man, folks? Was he a Middlesbrough man?
He said, I'm set for a winter of taking Derek, Allen, Mel and the girls fishing all around the northeast tight lines. All the best, Captain Ben O. So Derek mentioned yesterday he was going sea angling, didn't he, with Ben O.
Maggot drowning.
There you are. Maggot drowning.
Patterson White bowls. Bushnell leaves his crease to try and work the ball into the gap on the offside, but hits it straight to Hamid. So just past midday. Might get to lunch unless there's a bit of a clatter. This one's left alone by Bushnell. He's now faced 27 deliveries for his 11. Partnership worth 44. Update for Radio Nottingham. Yes, they'll be hoping to lift that Division 2 trophy, you would imagine, sometime after lunch. Now, lunch at 12:30 today. Notts still require 4 wickets. Durham are 84 for 5. There were 2 wickets down overnight, and then early successes for Stuart Broad, Dane Patterson and the spinner Liam Patterson-White. We thought perhaps it'll all be over in a hurry, but a little bit of a fight back here from Durham's 6th wicket partnership, Jonathan Bushnell and Chris Benjamin. They've withstood everything thrown at them by Stuart Broad and co. They've put up 44 on so far for this 6th wicket. Durham a long way away from safety. 493 more runs they would require to pull off an unlikely victory. That won't happen. Notts need 4 more wickets for the title. Durham 84 for 5. Next ball has gone through to Tom Morse at end of the over. A maiden from Liam Patterson-White. 7 overs, 1 maiden, 1 for 27 to the spinner. Notts over. Durham finished +3. They really got through their overs during this game in a timely fashion. Notts are doing the same with Liam Patterson-White bowling a chunk of overs here. He's through 7 overs. Stuart Broad has bowled 8 and he's about to begin his 9th. It's Benjamin on strike on 33. Just 2 slips. Joe Clark and Matthew Montgomery as Broad comes in. Bowls edge to Montgomery and he's pouched it. And there's another one for Broad. Chris Benjamin edging the quick bowler away, and Montgomery, great pair of hands, has gobbled that one up. And Durham at 84 for 6. And once again, thoughts that perhaps this might be over before lunch are rekindled. Stuart Broad gets his 3rd wicket of the innings. Chris Benjamin caught by Matthew Montgomery at 2nd slip. Bowled Broad 33, was at the crease for 40 minutes, faced 42 balls, hit 5 fours. But Chris Benjamin's season is over. Stuart Broad takes Notts a little bit closer to that second division title. 84 for 6, and he's got 3 in the innings and has now got 5 in the game. And I make that. Stuart Broad is now on 899 first-class wickets in his career. So one more for Broad will be a huge milestone for him. Amidst all the other milestones, I guess if you've played for that long and been that successful, I guess they just come around and take a natural place in the order of things. Is your 900th wicket bigger than your 800th or your 850th? Well, it is, of course, but you wouldn't probably celebrate it anymore. Here's Ben Rain coming in at number 8 for Durham, another left-hander, and then there'll be Matty Potts and Ollie Gibson to bring up the rear. No suggestion at all, no thoughts of sending out David Beddingham or anything foolish like that. He needs to get some rest and perhaps some treatment on that dislocated shoulder. I think they popped it back in, so it may hopefully just be a case of a little bit of period not doing too much. Paul Taylor, Dave, that's a serious catch that's just been taken by Matthew Montgomery. He was fairly close in the slips with the helmet on as well, and pouched it. Yeah, it did go quickly to him. He's a really good catcher. Took more catches actually than anybody else in the Royal London One Day Cup this season. 11, I think, for Matthew Montgomery. 11 out of 12. Typical Bracegirdle. When I interviewed him at the end of the competition talking about that, focused a little bit on the one that went down, spoiling the 100% record rather than the 11 that he had grabbed. But that was another good take from him. 84 for 6. The left-handed Ben Rain has taken guard and will be back underway in a moment. Here he comes. Balls, and going to be a single. Thought it was thigh pad. Just have a little check with umpire Pratt. It was leg by. Extras goes to 4. 85 for 6, and they rotate, and Jonathan Bushnell down to face Stuart Broad. Luke Fletcher booming out 1 or 2 messages of encouragement. Comes Broad, it's ball to the right-hander. Bushnell solidly behind it. Lunch is scheduled for 12:30. I've seen situations where umpires have allowed play to go on if the game can be concluded. I think there'd need to be another wicket or two. Probably another 2 wickets before that situation would be allowed. We'll have to see as Broad comes in. Bowls to Bushnell, works it onto the leg side. Tumbling stop from Lyndon James, who was one of the 4 centurions in this game for Nottinghamshire. A career best unbeaten score of 164 for Lyndon James. What a season he's had. 3 first-class hundreds now. 2 of them against Durham. Second one here at Trent Bridge. Both times he's gone past 150. 155 he got against Middlesex. 164 not out against Durham. There'll be fond memories to take into the winter as Broad bowls to Bushnell and he defends. There's 4 centurions for Notts. Asiba Mead 115. Matthew Montgomery 178. Stephen Mullaney 136. And as we just mentioned, Lyndon James 164 not out. First time since 1928 that Notts have had 4 individual centurions in the same innings. And the first time here in Nottingham. Unusual circumstances, yes, they were able just to go on and on because of what they required from this game, as this one's work to leg. And a good stop by Asiba Mead, which elicits a round of applause from his teammates and from the small but appreciative crowd. Durham 85 for 6 at the end of a successful Broad over, 9 overs, 1 maiden, 3 for 28. Now to Stuart Broad on his dad's birthday. He's on 899 first-class wickets. And it will be Liam Patterson-White to continue. 19 minutes to lunch. 19 minutes for Notts to get probably 2 wickets. I think if they were 8 down, the umpires would say, yeah, you can play on for a while. It's Patterson-White bowls to Ben Rain. He'll get his first run here. Just diverting the ball past Montgomery, who's gone in at short leg. 86 for 6. Margin of 490 runs between the two sides right now as Patterson-White bowls. This one's eased into the offside. Another single, 87 for 6 as Martin returns.
They need another 8 to avoid the highest defeat in terms of runs in the history of the county championship. I think they're going to be up there somewhere near the top of that table though. And as a result, this will be Durham's biggest defeat in terms of runs. Skewed by the fact that A, they lost Paul Coughlin on day 1 before a ball was bowled, had to leave the ground for personal reasons, and B, David Beddingham, very influential batsman for them, who got 180 here last year, dislocated his shoulder and hasn't been able to bat. But there's another wicket for Liam Patterson-White as he's bowled Ben Rain for 1. Straight through the gate, that one. And Durham at 87 for 6 and still have the possibility here of their lowest score against Nottinghamshire. They just have not been at the races in this game. For those 2 reasons I mentioned, but it's incredibly one-sided again. Probably on a larger scale than the one-sided hammering that Notts dished out of them earlier in the year in Chesty Street. Three runs added for that wicket. 87 for 7. We're now reaching the territory as well where 1 more wicket and they'll probably add on in the extra half hour for lunch, because Durham can only defend 9 wickets, not 10. So Patterson-White's just bowled Rain straight through his defences.
Yeah, so the end is very much in sight. Made just a single, Ben Rain. Faced 4 balls. Another one for the spinner, LPW. New man Matthew Potts.
Swung the bat a bit, didn't he, in the first innings?
Free admission today. You wonder if the club's finance department are hoping that there might be a lunch interval, perhaps sell one or two lunches, 1 or 2 glasses of something cold or cups of something warm. A little bit of expenditure in the shop maybe, but the players certainly, they'll be looking to polish this off as Patterson-White comes in. Bowls to Matty Potts. 40 in the first innings, joint top score. Was eventually dismissed by Liam Patterson-White. He was last out, wasn't he? Heaved the spinner away to Ben Slater. No, wasn't he? Was dismissed by Patterson. Beg your pardon, dismissed by Dame Patterson. Single taken, 88 for 7. Scorecard's not as difficult to read as it was earlier in the season when we had Pattinson and Patterson-White. We've got the floodlights coming on, Martin.
5 in the match for Patterson-White, who's now got 40 for the season.
Yeah, 40 for the season. He got 11 in the Royal London, so Probably not speaking out of turn, but I know he's told me a time or two that he'd set himself a goal right at the start, depending on how many games he played and all the rest of it, of getting at least 50 wickets across the formats this year. So he'll have hit one of his targets. Very pleased for him.
Chris Pinkney says it's the last game of the season, nothing to play for in terms of a Durham position, but this is disgraceful, he says. Well, Neil Killeen would say there's everything to play for. He believes that in every match, whether they can get anything out of it or not. You've got to go out there and do your best and play for your pride. But this has been so one-sided. Here's Broad coming in to bowl. This is defended by Potts. So Broad's what, one away from 900 or 800?
900.
900 first-class wickets.
Yeah, it's on 899.
And his dad's got his bus pass today.
And it's his dad's birthday, yeah. So you're armed with all the facts should the wicket go down this over.
And this victory's come gift wrapped, hasn't it? Talking of birthdays. Broad in, bowls. Oh, where's that gone? That's up in the air, lobbed away out through deep mid wicket. I've lost sight of it completely in the gloom. Oh, it's gone over the boundary for 4. Down the side of the Larwood and Vose stand. Somebody down there who we can't see is throwing the ball back. Magic returning ball.
Yes, I've lost the flight of it, but I was watching a Seaber meet and he was sort of running again. Almost goes without saying, but I always do say it. Loses his cap, but he was running and looking straight up in the air, which isn't particularly easy to do. What have we got? 4 balls left in the over, and the messages continue to come in. John says I'm watching from Cincinnati, Ohio. Oh my word, John! Oh my word! As Martin will tell you, Cincinnati Bengals versus my Miami Dolphins tonight.
Yawn. Brought in, defended by Potts as a helicopter flies past.
Come on, the Dolphins. John, I'm watching from Cincinnati, Ohio, gents. Just want to say thank you for getting me up at an insane hour of the morning all summer long when the Reds cashed in all their stars this year and the general manager posed the question, where are you going to go? Thank you. Is that baseball? I don't know, but yeah. Your NFL team hopefully will get a bit of a whooping overnight, John, our time.
Broad comes in to bowl to Potts. Potts fends it down one-handed.
Tees in the ground. It's chilly, Dave, in the Fox Road stand. Can I take this time to thank you and your co-commentators and the production staff for all your efforts this season. Thank you very much, T, and thank you for all your correspondence from the start of the season till now, and hope it's not too cold in the Fox Road stand.
Michael Gordon has sent War and Peace. I fear we'll not have time to read this out, but I'll read the last line, which says roll on next season. From a Durham perspective, yes. Brought in to Potts. Potts drives back past him. That's a really lovely shot. That's gone for 4, straight up to the pavilion end. Right, quickly he says, thanks for the updates and the interesting commentary again this season. It's been a disappointing season for Durham, with call-ups, injuries and poor form contributing to underachievement in all 3 formats. Ollie Robinson's signing appears to be a step forward. More decent signings are required, as Sean Dixon's departure is a blow. Player of the season was probably Michael Jones, who improves each year. I don't think you really look beyond Matty Potts, to be honest with you. He says Coach James Franklin had run out of time for most supporters. As Broad starts to run in, but the field is moving, so Potts removes from his crease.
Adam says, thank you, gents. Best commentary duo on the circuit. I don't know about that. But Winterwell, any new signings in the pipeline, Dave? And are we going to get Wayne Madsen?
Oh. Broad in to Potts. Potts leaves that one outside the off stump, and that is the end of the over. He was meant to come to Durham a few years ago, but it never happened.
There's been lots of links over the years, but it's never happened. Of course, Ollie Stone, who's with England in Pakistan at the moment, he's Trent Bridge bound. That's the only one that's sort of slipped through and been announced.
Michael says he's heard that Durham have had a couple of very interesting applications for the coach's job. So we'll see who comes in. Tell me more. He said we had a nice trip to Derbyshire and stayed in Belper in the summer and attended the Notts T20 game on the Friday night with seats in the Fox Road stand. It was more akin to a beer festival with a cricket match attached. Durham were well beaten.
There's Patterson White. Not require 2 wickets. They might be kept waiting for a while as Jonathan Bushnell pushes this confidently into the offside for a single.
He said on to Derby for the T20 on the Sunday, a nice ground, and yes, Durham lost again. They did. And I pointed out that that was their worst season in T20, and I was told they're just statistics.
Potts defends this one. He's raced to 9 fairly quickly. No, he hasn't. Now the board is saying Matty Potts is on 9 and he has hit a boundary or whatever. On the live stream you'll see, folks, there we are, it's just going to be refreshed. The live stream's going backwards for some reason, the graphics. This next one's pushed into the offside. 87 for 7.
Michael says, a final anecdote. A home game was ended early by torrential rain. We made our way to the car and had to shelter from the monsoon conditions under the A167 footbridge.
This one's pushed down the ground. Yeah, folks, ignore the graphics on the live stream. It's not 87 for 7, it's 98 for 7. And there we are. Kirsty says, well, if you're going to tell the listeners to ignore them, Dave, I'm going to take them off the screen and sort them out. So thanks, Kirsty. She's all over it. But we will try and mention the score a little more frequently. 98 for 7 it is. Remains so as this is hit back to Patterson White. Bushnell has 13, Potts has 10, they've added 11.
Things you never expect to read or hear. So they're sheltering under this footbridge out of the rain. Out of the corner of my eye I spied a cyclist who was still pedalling despite the weather.
And again comes LPW, final ball of the over, and we can hear about the cyclist. Defended, 98 for 7 at the end of the 35th over. We've got 8 minutes to go until lunch, unless another wicket goes down probably.
I'll let you guess about, was there anything unusual about the cyclist, Dave?
It was you.
It wasn't me. This certainly wasn't me. He said, the man was pedalling despite the weather. It was a tandem. The man was steering with his wife behind. He says, nothing wrong with that, you might say, except for the fact he was stark naked. He was apparently the naked cyclist who was doing a charity bike ride.
And where was this? What part of the world was this in?
Next,
sorry?
near Durham.
Yeah.
The A167 footbridge is the one from the park next to the cricket ground over to towards Chesley Street. Well, there you go. A sight to behold.
Dane Patterson's coming on to bowl quickly. Steve Lamotte's been in touch. He's the Notts Heritage Officer. Many thanks, Dave, to you for all your support for our award-winning, he says, heritage programme here at Trent Bridge.
Patterson in. Played to backward point by Potts, no run there.
And he says many thanks to all the supporters and members who've come to the library, the lunchtime talks, the book sale, the great giveaway, and the displays in the museum room. See you in Division 1 next season. Yeah, and I forgot to mention, Steve, earlier in the match, he did send me a message. There'd been a terrific amount raised during the course of this game.
There?
Well, I don't honestly know, but he did say that the people that have kindly gone in, they've taken free stuff, but they've left a donation for the upkeep of the library, and it's been a fantastic amount as a waft outside the off stump goes through to the keeper. So many thanks to Steve for all you do, and many thanks to everybody that's gone along on Steve's behalf and visited them in the library and supported the heritage team, all the volunteers or whatever. And if you've left a donation this week for the upkeep of the library as well, many thanks from Steve and the team there. Terrific stuff, folks.
Davey Fenwick says, can you ask Brace if he's going to be leading the celebrations on the open top bus through the Lace Market tomorrow?
Well, it's 11th place, isn't it? It's 11th place. 98 for 7.
Ooh, playing a miss here from Potts. Ben's been back on. He said Alan Old did used to live up in Long Framlington in Northumberland. There you are.
Mike Brown's in Guernsey with us. Thanks again for all your messages of support this year, Mike. Nice to have a couple of catch-ups during the course of the season. Says it certainly wasn't very warm in front of the pavilion back in April when the season started. He's down in Guernsey now. Have you been to Guernsey?
I've been to Jersey once.
I've been to Jersey, yeah. Didn't see Bergerac.
No. In comes Patterson, that's defended. Well, Ian Botham used to live in Guernsey, didn't he?
I don't know, did he? Mike would know. I think he's
I remember many years ago.
mayor of Guernsey or some such.
Yeah, I remember years ago having to ring him once for a story I was doing and didn't recognise the code and asked where it was, and it was Guernsey. Long time ago.
Sure he wasn't fobbing you off?
No?
I'm in Montserrat or Martinique.
I've been to Montserrat. That's a fabulous island.
Might get lunch, 12:25.
Patterson, balls to Potts, Potts defends. Gone out to the offside, no run there. We went on the hydrofoil from Antigua to Montserrat for a day trip. And there's only about a third of the island you can go onto now because of the volcano. And they took us to the extremities of Plymouth, which was the capital. And you're briefly allowed inside the no-go zone and going into these luxury villas, which were just full of, you know, feet thick ash from the volcano. Plates still on tables. Everybody just abandoned their houses and ran. Thick edge, taken low, and we went weak for him, this, isn't it? Wow. And Durham 98 for 8. And it won't be the heaviest defeat in terms of runs in the County Championship's history, but it's not going to be far off. They have avoided that. And I think they might have avoided their lowest score against Notts as well, which was 93 all out. But this has not been good at all. It's been awful. Notts now 1 wicket away from the title as well.
Catches pigeons, that lad. Absolute rocket of a deflection off the outside edge, and Montgomery took an absolute stunner. Matthew Potts has gone. Caught Montgomery from the bowling of Patterson for 10. It's 98 for 8, and Ollie Gibson, well, he didn't get any wickets in either innings. And he didn't get any runs either. He was not out naught in the first innings, so bagels everywhere as far as you can look for Ollie Gibson. Maybe he'll come out now and get a few runs.
.479, so they've avoided the record, which was 483.
So 98 for 8 as last man Ollie Gibson comes to the crease. Welcome listeners on 5 Sports Extra as Notts are on the brink of securing the Division 2 title. Yesterday promotion was already assured by the number of bonus points they got in this game. Now they're on the brink of inflicting a huge defeat on Durham and securing the title. They need one more wicket with Durham. A man like David Beddingham with a dislocated shoulder won't bat. Liam Patterson wide is the bowler, potentially with the chance of wrapping this up. And it's Jonathan Bushnell who's resisted for 40 deliveries, pushing this back to the bowler. Last man, Ollie Gibson, has just come out at the non-striker's end from the fall of Matty Potts' wicket. And this is slammed vigorously towards mid-off by Bushnell. Joe Clark goes down, makes a semi-decent stop. He saved 3 runs, but it ran away from him. They took a single, would have gone for 4 otherwise. A really good intervention from Clark. Still lots and lots of messages coming in thanking the BBC commentary service. We'll try and get to as many messages as we can before we eventually sign off, whenever the end of the game is, as Liam Patterson-White bowls. This is pushed into the offside, fielded by Ben Slater. I'm Dave Bracegirdle. Martin Emerson's to my right. He's been looking up some of Durham's biggest defeats. This one's going to figure prominently. 477 runs they are behind. We're only in the 37th innings. Notts have piled on the agony since winning the toss on the first morning. This next one's just dropped on the leg side by Ollie Gibson.
Where are Durham now? 478, so this would be the second heaviest defeat in terms of the history of the County Championship.
Liam Patterson-White bowls, worked away past short leg. Montgomery has caught 2 absolute screamers in recent overs at the other end, off the quicks at second slip. He's in there at short leg where he caught one in the first innings, and that one just deflected past him. They couldn't take a single. Remains 99 for 8, but one more wicket will do it. This time Gibson happy to block. It is the end of the over. Durham began this final day on 14 for 2, and wickets have tumbled. Stuart Broad has 3 wickets in the innings. He's on 899 first-class wickets, but he's not bowling at the moment. We'll be doing a quick update for BBC Radio Nottingham in a second as well. Very nearly one more wicket mark will lift that Division 2 title. Durham, as we've been saying, are a man light, so Nottinghamshire require only 9 wickets to win the match rather than 10, and they've got Durham 99 for 8, so they've taken 6 wickets in the 2-hour session this morning. Liam Patterson-White, the spinner, has bowled really nicely. He's got a couple of wickets. Dane Patterson and Stuart Broad also amongst the wickets this morning, so not just looking to polish this off. It is 12:30. They should be going for lunch, but as we're so close to a finish, the umpires have allowed them to play on, so hopefully from the Notts perspective, sometime in the next few minutes the Division 2 title will be presented to Stephen Mullaney and his side. But they need one more wicket yet, Durham, and 99 for 8. So that the update for BBC Radio Nottingham listeners. The umpires have clearly granted an extra period of time. We're never entirely sure, Martin, whether it's 15 minutes or half an hour.
It's half an hour, it's meant to be.
They just sort of say get on with it, don't they? And the game usually ends. Patterson bowls, heaved away by Bushnell onto the leg side, vigorously into the Fox Road stand. 3 or 4 rows back.
For cover there. Where's that shot come from?
6 runs to Jonathan Bushnell. Didn't know he'd got that in his armoury.
Neither did I.
Magnificent blow by the young man who looks very orderly indeed. Played a nice innings first time around, made 37. It's now gone on to 20.
Smashed into a seat in the second row with the people behind diving for cover.
Free admission today, the last day. Invitation for the home supporters to come along and see Notts crown the season in style. Dane Patterson bowls, this one just missing the leg stump as it jags back with Bushnell nowhere to be seen. It scuttled along the ground, having missed that leg stump, and Tom Moores had to scramble to his left to take it. 105 for 8. Durham began the day 14 for 2, and wickets have tumbled. There hasn't been a partnership of worthy of the name, really.
No. Their biggest defeat by margin of runs up until today was 386 by Middlesex in 1995 at the Riverside in Chester Street. So they're going to well and truly top that today, you imagine.
Need another 90 runs or so to avoid this going into the record books. Would be, as we've been saying, only the second time that Notts have inflicted the double over Durham, as Dane Patterson, the South African quick, who's the leading wicket taker for Notts this season with over 50 championship wickets, over 70 in all formats, fields off his own bowling.
They get another 3 runs. They're then in territory of the 4th biggest defeat in the history of the county championship in terms of runs margin. This is just pure runs rather than innings.
This will be the 5th time that Nottinghamshire have been promoted since the switch to 2-division cricket. In comes Dane Patterson, and this one very nearly is spooned back to him as Bushnell goes for a pull on the leg side, bat and pad together, and it ballooned up on the offside. But it would only be the second time that Nottinghamshire would have actually won the Division 2 title. That was way back under the skipper, the captaincy of Jason Gallion in 2004. The other occasions where they've been promoted, they've gone up as runners-up in 2007 and 2017, and in 2002 actually 3 went up. They went up in 3rd place. Halcyon days, Martin, of 3 up, 3 down. It's a long time ago.
It was a very Jekyll and Hyde system then. You were chasing the title and also worried about relegation at the same time.
Patterson, 1 wicket required. A little push and run here. There's an opportunity of a run out, but he'll get home as Stephen Mullaney at mid-on couldn't pick the ball up, and Bushnell very intent on keeping Ollie Gibson away from the strike. A little push and run, even though it went straight to the fielder. Takes the single, 106 for 8.
When did the county championship begin? Stephen Chalk's book was 125 years, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So that's, I think, 100 and... Did that come out 7 years ago?
Don't give me challenging questions like that at a time like this, Martin. 106 for 8. At Brace Cricket, at Multi Cricket, if you'd like to get in touch. And again, many thanks to everybody that has been in touch. All morning we've been reading out your kind messages and your thoughts on all sorts of topics, the highs of the season, and highs and lows for both counties.
1890.
106 for 8, puts a Bushnell on strike. 1 wicket required for Nottinghamshire. We're into a little bit of overtime here. Should be at lunch by now. Patterson white bowls. Bushnell on 21 plays this to Fletcher. So Bushnell certainly laid his cards very openly on the table for Notts to see at the end of the last over. The 6th ball, it was just push it and run. He's come down the track and he's helped this away through the offside, and he's having a little bit of fun here. Jonathan Bushnell played some shots, hit a big 6 in the last over, and now he's danced down the track and helped Liam Patterson white away through the offside for 4. That was a nice shot.
Well, they've jumped down the list now, so 1, 2, 3. At the moment it would be the 4th biggest defeat in the history of the championship.
Durham 110 for 8. Notts piled on the runs in the first innings. 662 for 5 before declaring. 4 different Nottinghamshire batters reaching centuries. Liam Patterson white bowls, and this is defended. That's the first time since 1928 that 4 different batters in the same innings for Nottinghamshire. So in a way, in a sense, it's a historic occasion for Nottinghamshire, whatever happens. But there's a large gathering of personnel now down in front of the side of the pavilion there, as Bushnell comes again and once more lifts him over the top very elegantly indeed. A couple of bounces for 4 over extra cover, and Jonathan Bushnell is a player, Martin. There's no doubt about that.
That 6 that he hit into the Fox Road stand was nice, wasn't it?
What is his career best? Just putting you on the spot just quickly. Yeah, roughly. I know he's only played not even a handful of games, but played very well yesterday.
He got 50 on his debut in a draw against Worcestershire, and then
got 37 yesterday, and I thought he really did play nicely.
His highest score 66 on his debut. He had 150 runs at an average of 50 going into this game.
He's on 29. Liam Patterson white bowls to Bushnell. Still 1 more wicket needed. LBW shout, up goes the finger, and Liam Patterson white sinks to his knees. Asiba Mead is first to him, and now the players come rushing in from all angles to form a huddle, a celebratory huddle. Jonathan Bushnell given out LBW to Liam Patterson white, who takes his 3rd wicket of the morning, and Durham have been bowled out for 114. A very ceremonial act taking place now, because the umpires at either end, umpire Newell and umpire Pratt, are removing the stumps, and that'll be the last time there's any cricket here at Trent Bridge in 2022, as the players now break up from the huddle. They're applauding the spectators all around the ground. The fans, the supporters, the members are on their feet applauding what they've seen on the big scoreboards here at Trent Bridge at either end of the ground. It says Division 2 champions Nottinghamshire, and a huge celebratory photograph of the players. And that is a good morning's work for Nottinghamshire. We wondered how long it would take them to get the 7 wickets that they required this morning, knowing full well that David Beddingham, we wish him well, wouldn't be able to bat for Durham after dislocating a shoulder. But Notts have worked their way through the Durham side today. Liam Patterson white predominantly brought on to keep that over 8 under control. Notts didn't want to run the risk of Durham getting out of this with a draw, either through their own endeavours or through the weather. They wanted to make sure that their over 8 was okay, so they've kept Patterson white going, and the spinner has taken his 50th wicket in all formats for the season this morning, and has added a couple more as well, and he's topped it off. Lovely scenes down in front of that historic pavilion at Trent Bridge right now as the players make their way. There's a number of photographers gathering, I can see. I don't know if there's going to be a trophy presentation right now, or if the players are going to make their way off and go into the dressing room. Stephen Mullaney leads them off at that Nottinghamshire side with plenty of smiles, plenty of reason to be happy. It's been a terrific 2nd Division campaign for Nottinghamshire. 8 wins out of the 14 matches. And going back to last season, when they won 8 of their last 11, that's 16 red ball wins from the last 25 games for Nottinghamshire, having gone 31 first-class games before that without a win. Absolutely flipping form and common sense on its head, the way Stephen Mullaney and his side have turned it round. The players are filing into the dressing room and away out of sight, and I would imagine in a few moments' time they'll be brought back out onto the field for a little celebratory lap, and we are presuming the presentation of the Division 2 trophy. But the nuts and bolts of this are that Durham have been bowled out, and Nottinghamshire have won by a huge margin here, a match they've dominated pretty much since Stephen Mullaney won the toss on that first morning, and with a wicket no doubt prepared to last the duration, opted to bat, Notts racked up the runs and then piled a lot of pressure on Durham. Nottinghamshire have won this one by 462 runs, Martin.
Yes, the fourth highest margin in the 133-year history of the county championship. And in terms of Durham defeats purely by margin of runs, it's 76 worse than their previous record, which was 386 by Middlesex in Chester Street in 1995.
Far end of the ground now, I can see, Martin, they've brought across that board.
There's a trophy on a table.
Yeah, they've brought across a board. The front of it, I'm sure, will probably say some things along the line of LV County or LV Insurance County Championship Division 2 winners, Nottinghamshire or some such, but we can only see the back of the board from here. But we can see, as Martin said, a table now being brought out with some silverware on it, and it's been placed there in front of the pavilion. The spectators from all the stands here, the Radcliffe Road stand, the William Clark stand, the Smith Cooper stand, the Fox Road stand, the Larwood and Vaux stand, the Hound Road stand, all walking, all congregating down to the far end of the ground, where they will be presented, I'm sure, with the Division 2 trophy. We'll be doing an update for Radio Nottingham as well in a moment or two. Hopefully they can come for the trophy presentation. We've got a mixture of blue sky and fluffy cloud overhead, yet the floodlights remain on, just to give a little more atmosphere, a little more presence. Division 2 champions Nottinghamshire up on the board. There'll be some lovely scenes in a moment or two down at the far end of the ground. Actually see one or two drifting away. Maybe they've got to head off and go to work. Maybe they've travelled from far and wide for this game. I know there's been quite a number of Durham supporters who've come down to see the last act of this county championship season, but it's the Nottinghamshire supporters who are making their way down to just make it a very nice looking scene in front of the historic old pavilion at the far end of the ground here, as Nottinghamshire celebrate a return to Division 1 cricket after topping the Division 2 table pretty much from gun to tape. They won the first game of the season down at Hove in bitterly cold April. They did lose to Glamorgan during that month, briefly toppled from the top of the table, but they've stayed there at the top ever since. I'm going to get an update for BBC Radio Nottingham. And we can say congratulations to skipper Stephen Mullaney, head coach Peter Moores, and all the side, all the squad, all the backroom staff, because Nottinghamshire are now confirmed as Division 2 champions, Mark. They've bowled Durham out this morning. Quite a ruthless job in the end for just 114. Durham a man light, but they've been blown away by a terrific performance in this particular game by Nottinghamshire. Of course, they racked up all those runs over the first 2 days, and then a bowled Durham out yesterday in the first innings, and again this morning to win by the hugest of margins, 462 runs. Great scenes at the taking of the last wicket. Liam Patterson-White dismissing Matty Potts, the last man to be dismissed, and that sealed the victory for Nottinghamshire. And now we're just waiting for the players to come out and get that Division 2 trophy. All the spectators are down there in front of the historic pavilion just waiting for that presentation, which will happen in the next few minutes. Notts are Division 2 champions. So there'll be a further update on BBC Radio Nottingham at 1 o'clock. I think I did say Matty Potts was last at it. In fact, I did say that, but it was actually Jonathan Bushnell who was last to be dismissed, given out LBW. Still no sign as yet of the return by Stephen Mullaney and his side. Those of you watching the live stream will be able to get the good pictures. I can see Aaron is down there, and I'm sure he will get whatever reaction he can for you on the live stream. We'll just stick with this for the time being. Very difficult to see from our perch, absolutely, and at the wrong end of the ground to see which dignitaries are here. Wouldn't want to speculate for fear of getting it wrong, but I'm sure they are representing not only the ECB and Nottinghamshire County Cricket Club, and but also the county championship sponsors, LV Insurance, and cricket as a whole. Very grateful for all the sponsors and the sponsorship that they do get, and still the spectators make their way towards that far end. I think everybody wants to have a really good view, a really good close-up of the presentation, the trophy presentation, and maybe, well, almost certainly they'll be able to get their own individual photos at that end, and I'm sure there'll be an opportunity to speak to a few of the players. I know a lot of the people in the ground here will have close associations with a lot of the players. There's a lot of family members here. There's a lot of people that have spent a lot of time with some of these players as youngsters, and will indeed have seen their progress through the years. It's been very much a season where Nottinghamshire just had to make sure they did what was required to do in terms of beating those in front of them. The challenge was to get out of Division 2 at the first time of asking, essentially, after the county championship reverted to a more normal format over what we've seen during the last 2 years, the 2 COVID years, and they've done that by winning the Division 2 title ahead of runners-up Middlesex. Many congratulations to them as well for clinching that second place spot ahead of third place Glamorgan, who on this occasion miss out. Still waiting for the players to come back, and see the match referee Mike Smith out there in the middle, just shaking the hands of head groundsman Steve Burks. And what a job Steve Burks and his crew have done whilst all this is going on. There's clearly a celebratory mood, a real feeling. You can sense it even from this side of the ground, a real feeling of pride and enjoyment, of celebration, and the spectators at the far end. But while all that is going on, the ground staff are hard at work. There's the strips being cut and mown, and wickets being dusted, and lines being refreshed, and the watering is no doubt going on. And there you can see, those of you watching the live stream will see the picture of Stephen Mullaney leading his side back out, waves to the crowd. Luke Fletcher is behind him, and on come the rest of the players. Joe Clark is third in line, and then there's all the rest of them. This not just the 11 that played in this game as well. Thoughts with the likes of Ben Duckett, of course, has played such a major role. He's over there with England in Pakistan. There's James Patterson, who was pivotal in any number of the winning performances. He's back home in Australia. And the other players that have been involved to a greater or lesser extent over the course of the season. Nottinghamshire are filing in now behind that board at the far end. As the camera turns round, we can see it. Division 2 winners 2022, Nottinghamshire. I realise that many of you watching the live stream can see the pictures for yourself, but very aware that we do have people just with the audio, just listening to us, the radio commentary via the BBC Sport website and app. Division 2 winners. A flag is unfurled, held by the players, and this will be a proud moment for all of them. Stephen Mullaney is now presented with the silverware, nice shiny silver cup with the ribbons on it of the sponsors, and he will take his place in the centre of the group, and then throws the cup skywards. No champagne being sprayed here, there or everywhere on this particular occasion, but Stephen Mullane in his side. No fireworks either. That's very much been a feature, hasn't it, of trophy presentations over the years. Stephen Mullane raises the cup aloft. Lots of applause now, almost as if they're not entirely sure what is expected of them, except just to soak it all in, enjoy it. They're waving for the backroom staff and crew and team, the analysts, the coaches, the support staff, all to go in and join them. The strength and conditioning coach is there, the psychologist is there, the physios are there, the backup staff, the analysts, and the squad players. They're all there. They're all there in a huge group, arm round each other, posing for the photos. I can see hundreds, literally hundreds of mobile telephones being held aloft, and people taking their own individual memories away from this one. Nottinghamshire Division 2 champions, it remains on the scoreboard, and this is a lovely moment for Nottinghamshire supporters as they soak it all in. Can see a Seba Mead, what a season he's had, 1,000 first-class runs for him, his 4th century in this game. Brett Hutton, who didn't play in this game, is there as well, looks just as happy for them. Jake Ball is down there, just played in the last game, another year where he's missed a lot of cricket through injury. There'll be 1 or 2 of the youngsters. A lot of handshakes down there, a lot of pride, a lot of enjoyment, and it's Nottinghamshire Division 2 champions here